in the misty Cotswolds of 1926. Hercule Poirot is drawn to Ashwood Hall by a cryptic invitation, plunging into a deadly game of secrets and murder. A blood-stained emerald brooch, a hidden cipher, and a vanished guest unravel a web of greed, betrayal, and a cursed relic. Who is the knight pulling the strings? Can Poirot's gray cells outwit a mastermind's sinister plot? As he unmasks the truth, a new mystery emerges in London: a stolen necklace, a veiled lady, and a naval officer's dark past. Will Poirot solve the lavender-scented riddle before lives are lost? Step into a world of elegance, deception, and brilliance where only Poirot can checkmate evil. Chapter 1. The Invitation to Ashwood Hall. The autumn of 1926 draped London in a golden haze, its streets bustling with the clatter of horse-drawn cabs and the hum of early motor cars. Hercule Poirot, ensconced in his immaculate flat at Whitehaven Mansions, adjusted the angle of a silver cigarette case on his desk, ensuring it aligned precisely with the edge of his blotter. The morning had been quiet, save for the soft ticking of his ormolu clock and the occasional coo of pigeons beyond his window. He sipped a tisane, the delicate aroma of chamomile soothing his fastidious senses, and turned his attention to the day's correspondence, neatly stacked by his faithful valet, George. Among the letter's invitations to soirees, a thank-you note from a grateful client lay, an envelope of cream vellum, its texture rich, and its seal embossed with a knight's crest. Poirot's mustache twitched, a subtle sign of curiosity. The handwriting was elegant, almost ostentatious, with flourishes that spoke of wealth and confidence. He sliced it open with a pearl-handled letter opener, his movements precise, and unfolded the single sheet within. My dear Monsieur Poirot, I trust this finds you in good health and spirits. I am Lord Reginald Ashwood of Ashwood Hall, Gloucestershire. You are cordially invited to a weekend at my estate, commencing Friday, the 15th of October. The occasion promises games of intellect and revelations of a most singular nature challenges, I am told, worthy of your remarkable mind. My guests are a select few, each with their own secrets to guard. I assure you, the experience will intrigue even one as discerning as yourself. A car will collect you at noon. Discretion, as always, is appreciated. Yours sincerely, Reginald Ashwood. Poirot's green eyes gleamed, reflecting the soft light of his desk lamp. A game of intellect and revelations were phrases that danced like bait before a fish. And Poirot, though cautious, was no stranger to such lures. Lord Ashwood's name was familiar. A whisper in London's high society, collector of rare artifacts, a recluse since his wife's death a decade ago, and a man rumored to guard secrets as fiercely as his treasures. The knight's crest on the seal intrigued him further. It was not a common motif, suggesting a family history steeped in tradition or deception. He leaned back, his small, neat hands folded over his waistcoat. Games and revelations, he murmured, his Belgian accent lending the words a musical lilt. Mon A. Ashwood, you play a dangerous overture. But Hercule Poirot is not one to decline a challenge. He resolved to accept, his curiosity outweighing the faint prickle of unease at the letter's cryptic tone. The journey to Gloucestershire was a study in contrasts. London's smoky bustle gave way to rolling hills cloaked in amber and crimson, the Cotswolds unfolding like a tapestry under a crisp October sky. The car, a sleek Rolls-Royce sent by Ashwood, purred along narrow lanes. Its driver, taciturn man named Hodges, offering little beyond a curt nod. Poirot, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit and Homburg hat, observed the passing landscape, his mind already cataloging details: the driver's calloused hands, the faint scent of tobacco clinging to his coat, the absence of a return address on the invitation. Small things, but to Poirot, small things were the threads of truth. Ashwood Hall loomed as the car crested a hill, a Jacobean pile of honey-colored stone, its gables sharp against the sky. Ivy clung to its walls, and mullioned windows glinted like watchful eyes. The estate sprawled across manicured lawns, bordered by ancient yews and a labyrinthine rose garden. Poirot noted the grandeur, but also the decay, cracked stonework, a sagging gate, a sense of time pressing against opulence. A house with secrets, he mused, stepping onto the gravel drive, his patent leather shoes gleaming. A butler, tall and gaunt, with eyes like polished flint, greeted him at the entrance. "Sieur Poirot, welcome. I am Grayson. His lordship awaits you in the drawing room." His voice was clipped, his bow precise, but Poirot caught a flicker of tension in his posture. The hall's interior was a marble-polished oak paneling, chandeliers dripping with crystal, and portraits of stern Ashwoods glaring from gilded frames. The air felt heavy, as if the house itself held its breath. In the drawing room, Lord Reginald Ashwood rose from a leather armchair, his presence commanding despite his age. Nearing 60, he was lean, with silver hair and a hawkish face, his eyes sharp as cut glass. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, his voice rich with the cadence of old money, "your reputation precedes you. I am honored." His handshake was firm, but his smile did not reach his eyes. "The honor is mine." "Lord Ashwood," Poirot replied, his tone courteous but probing. "Your invitation, it intrigues. Games of intellect, you say?" Ashwood's smile widened, a touch too calculated. "Indeed. A weekend of diversions, puzzles, ciphers, perhaps a test of wits. My guests are uniquely suited to such challenges." He gestured to the room where 4 others waited, their faces a gallery of guarded expressions. Lady Beatrice Langston, an heiress in her 30s, lounged on a velvet settee, her auburn hair swept into a chignon, her emerald green dress accentuating eyes that darted like a fox's. She nodded coolly at Poirot, her fingers toying with a pearl necklace, her smile sharp as a blade. "Monsieur Poirot, I hope you're as clever as they say. I detest dull company." Sir Henry Wells, a retired colonel in his late 50s, stood by the fireplace, his mustache bristling above a weathered face. His tweed suit was immaculate, but his hands, gripping a brandy glass, betrayed a slight tremor. "Heard of you, Poirot?" he grunted. "Solved that train business, didn't you? Hope you're not here to stir up trouble." Dr. Evelyn Hart, a slight woman with mousy hair and spectacles, sat in a corner, her hands clutching a leather notebook. Her gray dress was plain, but her eyes burned with intensity, flitting nervously to Ashwood. "I'm just here for the artifacts," she muttered, almost to herself. "No games for me." Clara Beaumont, a glamorous actress with golden curls and a crimson gown, leaned against the piano, her laugh like crystal shattering. "Oh, come now, Evelyn, don't be dreary. Monsieur Poirot, you must tell me, do you ever play the villain?" Her eyes sparkled, but Poirot noted a tightness in her jaw, as if her charm masked unease. Dinner was announced, and the group moved to a dining room aglow with candlelight. The table gleamed with silver and crystal, but the atmosphere crackled with tension. Poirot observed the guests, his mind a ledger of details. Beatrice's sharp glances at Ashwood, Henry's fidgeting with a ring engraved with a knight's crest, Evelyn's refusal to meet anyone's eyes, Clara's forced gaiety. Ashwood presided with a host's grace, but his anecdotes, tales of ancient relics and family lore felt rehearsed, each word chosen with care. As the main course roast pheasant with a Madeira sauce was served, Ashwood rose, tapping his glass. "My friends," he said, his voice carrying a theatrical edge, "I promised you a game, and I shall deliver. In this house lies a treasure, not of gold, but of truth, a secret that binds us all." He produced a small, ornate puzzle box from a sideboard, its ebony surface etched with a knight's crest. This box holds a clue to that truth. One of you knows its significance. Shall we open it? The guests exchanged glances, a silent storm of suspicion. Poirot's mustache twitched. The box's appearance was no surprise, but Ashwood's tone suggested a deeper intent. Beatrice leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. What's inside, Reginald? Don't play coy. Ashwood's smile was enigmatic. Patience, Beatrice. He turned a series of dials on the box, each click echoing in the silent room. With a final twist, the lid sprang open, revealing a velvet lining and a single object, an emerald brooch. Its gem the size of a robin's egg, its gold setting tarnished. Dark stains marred its surface blood, unmistakable even in the candlelight. A gasp rippled through the room. Clara's hand flew to her throat. Evelyn's notebook fell to the floor, and Henry's glass clattered against his plate. Beatrice's face paled, her pearls forgotten. Poirot's eyes narrowed, his mind racing. Blood, dried but not ancient, suggested a recent act or a deliberate provocation. Good heavens, Reginald, Henry barked, his voice hoarse. What's this about? Blood. Ashwood's expression remained serene. A relic, Sir Henry, from my collection. Its story is complex, but rest assured, no crime has been committed here tonight. His gaze swept the table, lingering on each guest. Yet, Poirot rose, his small frame commanding attention. Pardon, Lord Ashwood, but this brooch is no mere curiosity. Nest C. Pa, the blood. It tells a story. May I examine it? Ashwood hesitated, then nodded, passing the box to Poirot. Detective's gloved fingers traced the brooch's edges, noting the intricate filigree. The knight's crest etched into the gold, and the blood's uneven spread, as if smeared deliberately. This is not old blood, he said softly, his accent lending weight to the observation. And the crest it matches that of your invitation, monsieur. A coincidence, perhaps. Ashwood's smile tightened. You are observant, monsieur. Poirot, the crest is my family's, yes. As for the blood, let us say, it is part of the game. Clara laughed, a brittle sound. Ghastly game, Reginald. If I'd known you were this theatrical, I'd have brought my stage makeup. Evelyn's voice was sharp. It's no game. That brooch, it's Egyptian, isn't it? I've seen its like before, in Cairo. Hands trembled, and she bent to retrieve her notebook, her fingers brushing a folded paper that slipped to the floor. Beatrice's eyes followed the paper, her voice icy. Careful, Evelyn. You wouldn't want to drop any secrets. Poirot retrieved the paper before Evelyn could, his movements swift but polite. It was a sketch of the brooch, annotated with hieroglyphs and a single word, cursed. He pocketed it discreetly, his expression bland. Madame Hart, your knowledge of artifacts is most impressive. Perhaps you will share more later. Evelyn flushed, muttering, It's nothing, just notes. The dinner resumed, but the air was thick with unease. Poirot observed the interplay, Henry's grip on his ring, Clara's forced smiles, Beatrice's predatory watchfulness, Evelyn's retreat into silence. Ashwood steered the conversation to lighter topics: art, travel, but his eyes never left. The brooch now returned to its box as dessert, a delicate lemon soufflé, was served. Poirot leaned toward Ashwood. This game, monsieur? It has rules, yes, and players. But who is the master of the board? Ashwood's laugh was low, almost a growl. You are, Monsieur Poirot, if you choose to play. But beware, every move has consequences. Le meal ended, and the guests retired to their rooms, the brooch locked in a glass case by the dining room's hearth. Grayson, the butler, stood guard, his flinty eyes meeting Poirot's with a challenge. Poirot bid good night, his mind a whirl of details. The brooch's blood, the knight's crest, Evelyn's sketch, Beatrice's hostility. The invitation had promised a challenge, and Poirot felt its weight again where truth was the prize, sconed and deception the currency. In his room, a sumptuous chamber with damask curtains and a four-poster bed, Poirot sat at a writing desk, his notebook open. He sketched the brooch, noting its details, and wrote, "The blood is fresh. The crest is a key. One guest knows more than they admit. The game begins, but with what stakes?" He glanced at the window, where moonlight silvered the rose garden below. Shadow moved among the yews of figure, cloaked, pausing to glance upward. Poirot's heart quickened, but he remained still, his mind ordering the chaos. The shadow vanished, and the night grew still. Poirot closed his notebook, his mustache curving in a faint smile. "Mon ami," he whispered to the absent figure, "you have made your first move." But Hercule Poirot is never checkmated. He extinguished his lamp, the room plunging into darkness, but his gray cells burned bright, ready to unravel the sinister game that awaited. Chapter 2. The Midnight Cipher. The great clock in Ashwood Hall's entrance hall struck midnight, its resonant chimes echoing through the silent corridors like a solemn heartbeat. Hercule Poirot, unable to surrender to sleep, adjusted his silk dressing gown and slipped his feet into velvet slippers. His mind, ever restless, buzzed with the evening's peculiar events, the blood-stained emerald brooch, Lord Ashwood's cryptic game, and the heiress's fleeting glance of fear. "Nan," he murmured to himself, stroking his meticulously waxed mustache, "the little gray cells, they demand exercise." With a candle in hand, its flame casting long shadows on the oak-paneled walls, he descended the grand staircase, drawn to the library where the puzzle box had been displayed at dinner. The library was a cavern of knowledge, its shelves groaning under the weight of leather-bound tomes, their spines gilded with age and wisdom. Moonlight streamed through tall, mullioned windows, painting the room in silvers and grays. The puzzle box sat alone on a mahogany desk, its intricate carvings glinting faintly, as if whispering secrets. Poirot approached, his eyes narrowing. The lock, which had been secure at dinner, now bore faint scratches, subtle but unmistakable to his trained gaze. "Quel Mister," he whispered, setting the candle down. He ran his fingers over the box, feeling for irregularities, when a faint rustle betrayed a slip of paper caught beneath its base. He extracted it with care, a scrap of vellum, no larger than a calling card, inscribed with a jumble of letters and numbers in a meticulous hand. K3N7, P2Q8R4T9. Below it, single line in elegant script read, "The game begins at midnight." Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile. A cipher, a challenge. So fond of order, delighted in the prospect of unraveling this chaos. He retrieved a notepad from his pocket, a habit never abandoned, and began to work. The sequence suggested to Polybius Square, a favorite of cryptographers for its simplicity and deception. Assigning letters to a 5x5 grid, excluding J, he tested combinations, his pencil dancing across the page. After several minutes, the cipher yielded its secret, Knight's Gambit. The message was clear, yet enigmatic. "The first move is made. 8. Beware the Knight's Gambit." Poirot's brow furrowed. In chess, the Knight's Gambit was a bold, unpredictable opening, sacrificing a pawn for positional advantage. Was this a metaphor for the game Lord Ashwood had promised, or a warning of something more sinister? He folded the paper into his pocket, his thoughts interrupted by a piercing scream that shattered the night stillness. The sound came from the west wing, where the guests' rooms were housed. Poirot seized his candle and hurried through the darkened halls, his slippers silent on the polished floors. The scream had been unmistakably female, sharp with terror. He reached the source door ajar, marked with a brass plate reading Miss Clara Beaumont. The actress stood trembling in the center of her room, her silk nightgown clinging to her frame, her wide eyes fixed on an object on her bed. Poirot followed her gaze and saw it. A walking stick, its silver handle gleaming, smeared with the dark, glistening substance that could only be blood. Mademoiselle Beaumont, what has happened? Poirot asked, his voice calm but commanding as he stepped into the room. Clara's hands fluttered to her throat. I woke to a noise, a creak, and when I lit the lamp, I saw that. She pointed at the stick, her voice rising. It's Sir Henry's, isn't it? The Colonel's. Why is it here, covered in blood? Poirot approached the bed, careful not to disturb the scene. The walking stick was indeed the Colonel's, its handle carved with an intricate knight's crest, a detail he had noted at dinner. The blood was fresh, still tacky to the touch, and smeared deliberately, as if to draw attention. He leaned closer, his nose wrinkling at the faint metallic temps. But his mind registered another scent, something chemical, almost theatrical. Curio, he murmured, straightening. Mademoiselle, you must breathe. Tell Poirot exactly what occurred. Clara sank onto a chaise longue, her golden curls disheveled. I was asleep, Monsieur Poirot, but a sound woke me, a scrape, like wood on wood. I thought it was the wind, but then I saw the stick on my bed. I swear it wasn't there when I retired. Someone must have crept in while I slept. Her eyes darted to the door, which stood slightly open, its lock unmarred. Poirot examined the room. The window was latched, the curtains undisturbed. The door showed no signs of forced entry, suggesting the intruder had a key or exceptional skill. He turned to Clara, his tone soothing. You are safe now, mademoiselle. Poirot is here. But, tell me, did you see anyone? Hear anything else? A footstep, perhaps? Or a whisper? She shook her head, clutching her arms. Nothing. Only the creak. But I feel watched. Monsieur Poirot's house. It's as if the walls have eyes. Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. The walls, they do not see, but they may hide secrets. Rest now, under my protection. I will investigate this matter. He lifted the walking stick with a handkerchief, wrapping it carefully to preserve the evidence. This blood, it may not be what it seems. I'll return it to its owner and seek answers. As he stepped into the corridor, the other guests emerged, drawn by the scream. Lady Beatrice Langston, the heiress, stood in a crimson dressing gown, her sharp features pale. What's happened now? She demanded, her voice edged with irritation. More theatrics. Sir Henry Wells, the Colonel, appeared next, his military bearing intact despite his rumpled pajamas. His eyes widened at the sight of his walking stick in Poirot's hands. Good Lord, man, what's that doing here? And why is it stained? Poirot held up a hand, silencing the murmurs. Mies, Amos, there is no cause for alarm yet. A small disturbance, nothing more. Return to your rooms and lock your doors. Poirot will handle this. His authority quelled their protests, and they dispersed, though Beatrice's lingering glance suggested unease in the library. Poirot placed the walking stick beside the puzzle box, studying both. The knight's crest on the stick matched the carvings on the box, a connection too precise to be coincidence. The blood, he suspected, was not human. Its scent hinted at stage paint, a trick he'd encountered in past cases involving theatrical deception. He tested a small smear with his handkerchief, rubbing it between his fingers. The texture confirmed his suspicion. Not blood, but a clever imitation, likely red ochre mixed with oil. A warning, he mused aloud. But for whom? And why the knight? He returned to the cipher, its words echoing in his mind. Beware the knight's gambit. The knight, in chess, moved unpredictably, leaping over other pieces. Was the intruder the knight? among the guests, orchestrating this charade. Clara's fear seemed genuine, but her profession as an actress made her a master of performance. Sir Henry's shock at seeing his stick could be feigned, and Beatrice's agitation hinted at hidden knowledge. Even Lord Ashwood, with his enigmatic game, remained a suspect. Poirot paced the library, the candlelight flickering across his sharp features. The house was silent now, but its secrets were awake, stirring in the shadows. He recalled the brooch, its emerald glinting like a malevolent eye. Its bloodstain, too, might be false, part of the same theatrical ruse. But why? Too frightened, too distract, or to point to a deeper truth. He resolved to question Sir Henry at dawn, to probe the Colonel's connection to the crest in the stick's mysterious journey to Clara's room. As he prepared to retire, a faint creak came from the hallway, deliberate sound, not the settling of old wood. Poirot extinguished his candle and moved silently to the door, his senses alert. The corridor was empty, but a draught carried the scent of lavender, a perfume he'd noted on Lady Beatrice at dinner. He smiled faintly. "The game, it progresses," he whispered, pocketing the cipher and locking the library door behind him. The night held its secrets close, but Hercule Poirot was not one to be outwitted by shadows. The house settled into an uneasy quiet, its guests unaware of the detective's sharpening focus. The night's gambit had begun, and Poirot's gray cells were ready for the next move. Chapter 3. The Vanishing Guest. The first light of dawn crept through the heavy velvet curtains of Ashwood Hall, casting long, ghostly shadows across the polished oak floors. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and wax, mingling with the faint, lingering aroma of last night's lavish dinner. Hercule Poirot, impeccably dressed despite the early hour, stood in the grand dining room, his sharp eyes scanning the table where breakfast had been laid out. The silver cutlery gleamed, the porcelain plates were pristine, and the crystal glasses sparkled under the chandelier's soft glow. Yet, one detail jarred the harmony of the scene: an empty chair at the table, its occupant conspicuously absent. Dr. Evelyn Hart, the nervous archaeologist who had fidgeted through dinner with her eyes darting toward the blood-stained emerald brooch, was missing. Her absence was not merely a social faux pas. It was a crack in the carefully orchestrated weekend that Lord Reginald Ashwood had promised would be a game of revelations. Poirot's mustache twitched slightly, a telltale sign of his mind. At work, the other guests, trickling in for breakfast, murmured their surprise, their voices a low hum against the clink of teaspoons and the rustle of napkins. "Where's Dr. Hart?" asked Lady Beatrice Langston, the sharp-tongued heiress, her voice cutting through the morning haze. She sat at the head of the table, her auburn hair pinned elegantly, though her green eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. She was positively jittery last night. I'd wager she's off digging up some dusty relic in the gardens. Or perhaps she's simply overslept, offered Sir Henry Wells, the retired colonel, his tone gruff, but his fingers drumming nervously on the tablecloth. His weathered face, etched with the years of military discipline, seemed to hide something beneath its stoic surface. He glanced at Clara Beaumont, the glamorous actress who was stirring her tea with an absent-minded grace. Her lips pursed as if guarding a secret. Lord Ashwood, presiding over the table with the air of a benevolent monarch, waved a dismissive hand. "Evelyn is a scholar, my dear guests. Eccentricity is her trade. No doubt she's lost in some book or sketching one of my artifacts. She'd turn up." His smile was polished, but Poirot noted the slight tightening of his jaw, a telltale sign of unease. Poirot, standing near the fireplace, adjusted his cufflinks and cleared his throat, drawing all eyes to him. "Monsieur Ashwood, with respect, I find it curious that a guest of such evident intellect would miss a meal without notice. It is not in keeping with the order of things. Perhaps we should ascertain her whereabouts, Nan." The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over the guests like a fog. Clara's teaspoon paused mid-stare, and Sir Henry's drumming fingers stilled. Lady Beatrice arched an eyebrow, but her usual sharpness seemed tempered by curiosity. Lord Ashwood hesitated, then nodded. "Very well, Poirot. Let us humor your meticulous nature. We'll check her room." The group ascended the grand staircase, their footsteps muffled by the thick Persian runner. Evelyn's room, tucked at the end of a dimly lit corridor, was as pristine as the dining table below. The bed was made, its silk coverlet undisturbed, and her suitcase sat neatly in the corner. Faint scent of lavender lingered, likely from the sachet on the dresser. But Poirot's eyes were drawn to the small writing desk by the window, where a leather-bound journal lay open, its pages filled with precise handwriting and intricate sketches. He approached the desk, his gloved hands hovering over the journal, as if it were a sacred relic. The open page featured a detailed drawing of the emerald brooch from last night's dinner, its facets meticulously rendered in pencil. Beside it, Evelyn had scrawled notes in a hurried hand. "Cursed relic, stolen from Saqqara, 1919. Blood follows its path, must warn." The sentence trailed off, unfinished, as if interrupted. Monsieur Poirot murmured, his voice barely audible. "This is no mere scholar's curiosity." Dr. Hart was afraid. Clara, peering over his shoulder, gasped softly as the brooch from the puzzle box. Why would she draw it? And what's this about a curse? Superstition, no doubt, Sir Henry scoffed, but his eyes lingered on the journal, betraying a flicker of doubt. Archaeologists are always spinning tales about cursed tombs. Lady Beatrice, standing by the door, folded her arms. Or perhaps she's run off with some treasure. She wouldn't be the first scholar to turn thief. Poirot ignored their speculations, his attention fixed on a small detail, a smudge of ink on the page, still slightly damp. "This was written recently," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Dr. Hart was here last night, after dinner, and yet she is gone. We must search the house." Lord Ashwood, standing in the doorway, sighed theatrically. "Really, Poirot? Must we turn my home into a scavenger hunt?" "She's probably wandering the grounds, lost in thought." "Then we shall find her, monsieur," Poirot replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. "And we shall do so with haste." Search began in earnest, with the guests splitting into pairs at Poirot's direction. He paired himself with Clara, sensing her unease might yield more candor than the others' guarded demeanors. "Okay." Began in a library, where Poirot had found the cipher last night. Its cryptic warning, "The first move is made, but where the knight's gambit," still tucked in his pocket. The library was a cavernous room, its walls lined with towering bookshelves, and its air heavy with the scent of leather and dust. A massive globe stood in one corner, and a mahogany desk dominated the center, the puzzle box still resting upon it. Poirot's eyes scanned the shelves, his mind racing. "Mlle. Beaumont," he said, his voice low. "You noticed Dr. Hart's behavior last night? Did she speak of this brooch, or of anything that might explain her absence?" Clara hesitated, her fingers twisting the fringe of her shawl. She was odd. Kept muttering about Egypt, about things she'd seen in the desert. I thought it was just her nerves, but now she trailed off, her eyes darting to the puzzle box. Poirot followed her gaze, then approached the desk. He ran his fingers along the bookshelf behind it, his touch precise, searching for anything amiss. His hand paused on a worn copy of the Canterbury Tales, its spine slightly misaligned. With a gentle tug, he pulled it forward, and a soft click echoed through the room. A section of the bookcase swung inward, revealing a narrow passage, its stone walls damp and cool. "Monsieur Poirot whispered, his eyes gleaming with discovery. "A secret passage. This house, it holds many secrets, does it not?" Clara's hand flew to her mouth. "A passage. But where does it lead? We shall see, mademoiselle. Poirot produced a small flashlight from his pocket, its beam cutting through the darkness. The passage was narrow, barely wide enough for one person, and its floor sloped downward, suggesting it led to the lower levels of the estate door beyond. As he stepped inside, his foot brushed against something soft. He knelt, illuminating a single glove, its fine leather stained with ink, not blood. The monogram E.H. was embroidered on the cuff. Dr. Hart's, Poirot said, holding it up for Clara to see. She was here, and recently, but where has she gone? The passage stretched into shadow, its air growing colder as they descended. Clara clung to Poirot's arm, her breath quickening. "This is madness," she whispered. "Why would she come here?" "What was she running from? Or to?" Poirot corrected, his voice steady. "Fear drives one to hide, but purpose drives one to act. Dr. Hart, I suspect, has a purpose." The passage opened into a small chamber, its walls bare except for a single carving, a knight's crest, identical to the one on the puzzle box. The chamber led to a heavy wooden door, slightly ajar, through which a faint breeze carried the scent of wet earth. Poirot pushed it open, revealing the estate's sprawling gardens, shrouded in morning mist. Footprints, small and hurried, marked the soft ground, leading toward a copse of yew trees before vanishing into the fog. Poirot knelt, studying the prints. "These are hers," he said. "She fled, but not far. The mist, it conceals her path, but it cannot conceal her fear." Clara shivered, wrapping her shawl tighter. "You think she's still out there? Alive?" "Oui, mademoiselle. La Belle, the footprints, they tell a story of flight, not of tragedy. But we must find her before the one who plays this night's gambit does." The search continued, with Poirot rallying the guests in the drawing room. He stood before the fireplace, his small frame commanding the room's attention. "Miss Amos," he began, his voice clear and measured. "Dr. Hart has not left Ashwood Hall of her own volition, nor has she met with harm. The evidence suggests she is hiding, perhaps from a threat within these walls. We must remain vigilant. No one leaves the estate until she is found." Lady Beatrice scoffed, tossing her head. "This is absurd. You're turning a scholar's whim into a melodrama. Oh, she's probably halfway to London by now. And why? Her journal, her glove, her footprints." Poirot countered, his eyes locking onto hers. "These are not the actions of a woman fleeing to London. They are the actions of one who fears for her life." Sir Henry cleared his throat, his face flushed. "If there's a threat, Poirot, point the finger. Who's behind this nonsense?" Poirot's mustache curved slightly, a faint smile. "That mon ami is what I intend to discover. But for now, we stay together, watch, and we wait." The guests exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier camaraderie fraying under the weight of suspicion. Lord Ashwood, his charm strained, clapped his hands. "Very well, Poirot, we'll follow your lead. But let's not turn my weekend into a witch hunt." As the group dispersed to their rooms, Poirot lingered in the drawing room, his eyes on the puzzle box. The knight's crest, the cipher, the brooch, the glove, all pieces of a puzzle, but the picture remained elusive. He slipped the glove into his pocket beside the cipher and murmured to himself, "The game, it has begun." But Hercule Poirot, he does not lose at games of the mind. The morning stretched into noon, the mist burning off to reveal Ashwood Hall's manicured gardens in their full glory. Poirot, accompanied by Clara, retraced the footprints to the yew trees, where they found a small iron gate, half hidden by ivy. It led to a narrow path, winding toward the estate's chapel, a Gothic structure of weathered stone. The gate creaked as Poirot pushed it open, revealing more footprints, fainter now, leading to the chapel's door. Inside, the air was cool and heavy with the scent of incense. Stained glass windows cast fractured rainbows across the pews, and a single candle flickered on the altar. Poirot's eyes scanned the shadows, landing on a small object tucked beneath the pew, a silk scarf embroidered with Evelyn's initials, its edges frayed but clean. No blood, no signs of struggle, just another clue. Deliberately placed. She was here, Poirot said, holding the scarf aloft. But she is gone again. This scarf, it is a message. She wishes us to know she is alive, but she cannot show herself. Clara's eyes widened. Then she's still on the grounds. Kiting. Oui, mademoiselle, but not for long. The one who plays this game, they grow impatient. We must find her before they do. As the afternoon waned, Poirot gathered the guests in the library. The puzzle box, now locked in a glass case at Lord Ashwood's insistence. He paced before the group, his hands clasped behind his back. Mies, Amos, Dr. Hart is alive, but she is in danger. The knight's crest, the cipher, the glove, the scarf, these are not accidents. They are moves in a game, and we are all players, whether we wish it or not. I ask you now, has anyone seen or heard anything that might guide us to her? A silence greeted him, broken only by Lady Beatrice's sharp laugh. You're grasping at straws, Poirot. If she's hiding, let her hide. I have no patience for her theatrics. Poirot's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing, noting the way Sir Henry avoided his gaze, and Clara's fingers tightened around her teacup. Lord Ashwood, standing by the fireplace, spread his hands. Assure you, Poirot, my staff are searching the grounds. She's here, we'll find her. Bon, Poirot replied, his voice deceptively mild. Then we shall continue to play this game, and Hercule Poirot shall ensure it is played fairly. As the guests dispersed, Poirot lingered by the bookcase, his fingers brushing the knight's crest carved into the passage's entrance. The game was far from over, but he felt the first stirrings of clarity. Evelyn Hart was not a victim. She was a player, and her moves were calculated. The question was not only where she was, why she played at all. The day faded into evening, and Ashwood Hall settled into an uneasy quiet, its secrets buried in the shadows. Poirot retired to his room, the glove and scarf laid out on his desk, his mind a world of connections. The knight's gambit was in motion, but Hercule Poirot was ready to counter it, his gray sails poised for the next move. Chapter 4. The knight's crest. The morning sun filtered through the tall, mullioned windows of Ashwood Hall, casting golden bars across the polished oak floors of the dining room. Hercule Poirot sat at the breakfast table, his posture impeccable, his mustache impeccably trimmed, and his gray cells humming with the enigma of the previous night's discoveries. The blood-stained emerald brooch, the cryptic cipher, warning of a knight's gambit, and Dr. Evelyn Hart's sudden disappearance had transformed Lord Ashwood's promised weekend of games and revelations into a puzzle that demanded Poirot's singular intellect. The air was thick with unspoken tension as the remaining guest, Lord Reginald Ashwood, Lady Beatrice Langston, Sir Henry Wells, and Clara Beaumont picked at their poached eggs and toast, their eyes darting suspiciously to one another. Poirot sipped his café au lait, observing the room with the precision of a watchmaker. Lord Ashwood, at the head of the table, maintained a veneer of aristocratic calm, his silver hair gleaming under the chandelier, though his fingers toyed nervously with a napkin. Lady Beatrice, the sharp-tongued heiress, sat with a forced elegance, her emerald green dress a bold contrast to her pale, guarded expression. Sir Henry, the retired colonel, buttered his toast with military precision. Tina, but his eyes flickered toward the empty chair where Evelyn Hart should have been. Clara Beaumont, the glamorous actress, stirred her tea incessantly, her red lips pursed as if holding back a secret. The absence of the nervous archaeologist hung over the table like a specter, and Poirot noted the subtle glances exchanged, each guest a potential player in this sinister game. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured to himself, setting down his cup with a delicate clink. The knight's crest is the key, n'est-ce pas? It binds the puzzle box, the hidden passage, and perhaps the heart of this mystery. He had not shared the details of his midnight findings, the tampered puzzle box, the cipher's chilling message, or the blood-smeared walking stick found in Clara's room. Nor had he revealed the discovery of Evelyn's ink-stained glove in the hidden passage behind the library's bookcase. These clues, like pieces of a chessboard, were his to arrange, and he would not tip his hand until the board was clear. Lord Ashwood cleared his throat, breaking the silence. I trust you all slept well, despite last night's excitement. His voice was smooth, but Poirot detected a tremor beneath the polish. Dr. Hart's absence is troubling, but she is a scholar, prone to wandering off in pursuit of her studies. I'm sure she'll turn up. Wandering, Lady Beatrice's voice cut like a blade. She leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowing. After that ghastly brooch and the blood in Miss Beaumont's room. Forgive me, Lord Ashwood, but this feels less like a scholarly quirk and more like a calculated disappearance. Clara's teaspoon clattered against her saucer. I'd rather not be reminded of that stick, Lady Beatrice. It was horrifying, waking to find it on my pillow, smeared with whatever that was. Blood, ma chère. Poirot interjected, his tone gentle but probing. Or perhaps something less dire. The mind, it plays tricks in the dark, Nan. Clara flushed, her fingers twisting a napkin. It looked like blood. I'm no expert, Monsieur Poirot. Sir Henry grunted, setting down his knife with a thud. Nonsense. Probably some theatrical prank. This whole weekend reeks of theatrics. His weathered face betrayed no fear, but Poirot noted the way his hand lingered near his jacket pocket, as if reassuring himself of something hidden there. Poirot smiled faintly, his eyes gleaming with calculation. Theatrics, Sir Henry. Perhaps. But the stage is set with precision, and every prop the brooch, the stick, the cipher, has its purpose. Tell me, Lord Ashwood, this crest of the knight, so prominent on the puzzle box and the passage, it is significant. Ashwood's fingers stilled on his napkin. The knight's crest, a family emblem, nothing more. It's carved on half the heirlooms in this house. My ancestors were rather fond of their heraldry. Indeed, Poirot tilted his head, his voice deceptively mild, and yet it appears in such curious places. The puzzle box, the hidden passage. One might think it marks the path to a deeper secret. A flush crept up Ashwood's neck, but he waved a hand dismissively. You're reading too much into old carvings, Monsieur Poirot. This is an ancient house, full of quirks. Quirks do not scream in the night, nor do they vanish into the mist, Poirot replied, his gaze sweeping the table. I propose we examine this crest more closely. Lord Ashwood, might we inspect the family artifacts you mentioned? Perhaps they hold a clue to Dr. Hart's whereabouts. Ashwood hesitated, then nodded. Very well. After breakfast, I'll show you the collection in the West Wing, but I assure you, it's nothing but dusty relics. The meal concluded in strained silence, and Poirot followed Ashwood to the West Wing, the other guests trailing behind like reluctant pawns in his investigation. The West Wing was a labyrinth of tapestries and portraits, each depicting stern-faced Ashwoods with a knight's crest emblazoned on shields, rings, and brooches. At the end of a dimly lit corridor, Ashwood unlocked a heavy oak door, revealing a room lined with glass cases. Inside gleamed an array of artifacts, swords, chalices, and, most strikingly, a chess set carved from ebony and ivory, each piece bearing the knight's crest. Poirot's eyes locked onto the chess set, its night pieces gleaming under the soft light. Magnifique, he murmured, stepping closer. This set, it is remarkable. Tell me, Lord Ashwood, its history. Ashwood shifted uncomfortably. It's been in the family for centuries. Legend says it belonged to Sir Baldwin Ashwood, a knight accused of treason in the 14th century. He was said to have hidden a fortune before his execution, and the chess set was his final legacy. A fanciful tale, of course. Fanciful, perhaps, Poirot said, his fingers brushing the knight's crest on a pawn. But legends often cloak truth. This set, it is complete. Ashwood nodded. Every piece accounted for. I checked it myself last month. Poirot's gaze sharpened, but he said nothing, turning instead to the guests. Mies Amos, observed the crest. It is not merely decorative. It is a signature, a mark of intent. Who among you knows more of this knight's legacy? Lady Beatrice's lips tightened, her hands clasped tightly before her. If you're implying something, Monsieur Poirot, speak plainly. My family has no connection to this nonsense. Nan, Poirot's eyebrows rose. And yet, Lady Beatrice, I recall, a history of rivalry between the Langstons and the Ashwoods. A dispute over an heirloom, perhaps? This very chess set. Beatrice's eyes flashed. That was centuries ago. My ancestors claimed the set was stolen from us during the Wars of the Roses, but its ancient history has nothing to do with today. History, ma chère, has a way of lingering, Poirot said softly, and secrets, they do not stay buried. Sir Henry coughed, stepping forward. Enough of this. If you're fishing for suspects, Poirot, look elsewhere. No stake in old feuds or cursed gems. But as he spoke, his hand brushed his jacket pocket, and Poirot's keen eyes caught the glint of a ring on his finger ring, bearing the knight's crest. Tins, Poirot said, his voice sharp. Sir Henry, that ring, it is most curious. The same crest, Nan. A coincidence, or something more? Sir Henry's face reddened. It's a family heirloom, nothing more. I've worn it for years. You're making mountains out of molehills. Poirot, perhaps, Poirot said, his smile enigmatic. But the molehill, it grows when one digs. Tell me, Sir Henry, where were you last night when Mademoiselle Beaumont found the bloodied stick? Sir Henry bristled. In my room, asleep. Ask anyone. Indeed, I shall, Poirot replied, his tone polite but unyielding. For now, let us return to the drawing room. I have a theory to test. The group reconvened in the drawing room, where a fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows on the walls. Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back, his mind assembling the puzzle's pieces. The knight's crest linked the puzzle box, the hidden passage, and now Sir Henry's ring, Evelyn's disappearance. The cipher's warning of a knight's gambit and the bloodied stick suggested a carefully orchestrated game. But by whom? And to what end? The guests settled into armchairs. A groundskeeper burst into the room, his face pale. Monsieur Poirot. I saw something by the cupola figure in a cloak, holding a chess piece. A knight, I think. They vanished into the woods. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Marcy, monsieur, lead me to this chapel at once. The group followed the groundskeeper through the misty gardens, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and roses. The chapel, a Gothic relic at the edge of the estate, loomed like a sentinel, its stained glass windows glinting in the afternoon light. Inside, the air was cold, the pews dusted with age. Poirot's sharp eyes scanned the space, landing on a stone altar where a single sheet of paper lay, folded neatly. He unfolded it, revealing a message in elegant script. The game claims its second piece. Monsieur Poirot whispered, his voice echoing in the silent chapel. The knight moves again. He turned to the guests. their faces a mix of fear and suspicion. This note, it is no idle threat. The second piece suggests a progression, a plan. Dr. Hart was the first, perhaps, but who is next? We must be vigilant. Mies Amos. Clara shivered, clutching her shawl. This is madness. Why would anyone do this? Why, indeed, Poirot said, pocketing the note. But the why? It is tied to the knight's crest, to the chess set, to the secrets each of you carries. I will uncover the truth, but you must trust in Poirot's method. As they returned to the hall, Poirot's mind raced. The knight's crest was no mere decoration. It was a symbol of power, of betrayal, of a game centuries old. Sir Henry's ring, Beatrice's agitation, Ashwood's evasiveness, each was a thread in the tapestry. The note's warning echoed. In his thoughts, the game claims its second piece. He would lock the note away, safe in his room, and tomorrow he would press Sir Henry further. For now, he bid the guests good night, his calm authority a beacon in their unease, his gray cells already plotting the next move in this sinister game. Chapter 5. The Actress's Secret. The late morning sun filtered through the heavy velvet drapes of Ashwood Hall, casting a golden haze over the rose gardens where Hercule Poirot strolled beside Clara Beaumont. The air carried the faint sweetness of blooming roses, undercut by a crisp autumn bite that made Clara pull her shawl tighter. Her auburn hair, usually swept into a glamorous chignon, fell loose in soft waves, betraying her agitation. Her green eyes, sharp with the practiced allure of a stage star, darted nervously toward the manor's looming silhouette. Poirot, impeccable, in his tailored suit and polished shoes, walked with measured steps, his cane tapping lightly on the gravel path. His mustache, waxed to perfection, twitched slightly as he observed her. "Madame Beaumont," he began, his voice low and melodic. "You have been most silent since the disturbance last night. Yet, I sense your silence is not born of fear alone, but of knowledge. Perhaps you would share with Poirot what troubles you." Clara hesitated, her gloved fingers twisting the fringe of her shawl. The gravel crunched underfoot as they paused near a stone fountain, its water gurgling softly. She glanced back at the hall, ensuring no one followed, then met Poirot's piercing gaze. "You're too clever, Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice a practiced blend of charm and tremor. "I've been trying to keep my head down, but I can't anymore. Not after that scream, that bloodied stick, and now Evelyn vanishing. I know something dangerous." Poirot's eyes gleamed with interest, but his face remained composed, a mask of polite curiosity. "Speak, mademoiselle." Poirot listens, and he protects those who trust in his discretion. Clara took a deep breath, her shoulders rising as if shedding a weight. "It started in Cairo 2 years ago. I was performing in the Pharaoh's Curse, a dreadful melodrama, but it paid well. It's where I met Dr. Evelyn Hart. She was excavating a tomb nearby, always scribbling in that journal of hers. One night, after too many glasses of champagne, she told me about a relic, an emerald brooch, stolen from a pharaoh's tomb. She swore it was cursed, that it brought ruin to anyone who touched it. I laughed it off then, but—" Her voice faltered, and she looked away, toward the fountain's rippling surface. Poirot tilted his head, his gray cells humming. "This brooch, it is the same as the one revealed last night, n'est ce pas? The blood-stained emerald in Lord Ashwood's puzzle box." Clara nodded, her lips pressed tight. "It must be." The design she described, teardrop emeralds, gold filigree, a scarab at its center, it's unmistakable. Evelyn was obsessed with it, said it was worth a fortune, but carried a curse that had already claimed lives. She was being dramatic, but now, with her gone and that brooch here, she shivered, though the sun warmed the air. Poirot's cane traced a small circle in the gravel as he considered her words. And yet, mademoiselle, you are here at Ashwood Hall, among strangers, with this knowledge. Why, a mere coincidence? Or is there more to your presence? Clara's eyes flickered with guilt, and she turned away, her fingers brushing the petals of a nearby rose. I was hired, she admitted softly. A letter arrived 3 months ago, unsigned, with a generous sum and a request to attend this weekend. My task was to watch Evelyn report anything unusual about her behavior. I thought it was harmless and eccentric collector, perhaps, or a rival archaeologist. But now, with all this, she gestured vaguely toward the hall, her voice dropping to a whisper. I think I've been drawn into something far worse. Poirot's mustache twitched again, a sign of his mind at work. This letter, do you have it still? Clara hesitated, then reached into her shawl, producing a folded piece of parchment from a hidden pocket. She handed it to Poirot, who unfolded it with care, his gloved fingers tracing the edges. The paper was thick, expensive, with no watermark or monogram. The message, written in a precise, unfamiliar hand, read, "Observe Dr. Hart. Report her actions. Speak, and the night strikes." Poirot's eyes narrowed at the final line. "The night again," he murmured, folding the letter and slipping it into his coat. "This is most interesting, mademoiselle. The knight's gambit from the cipher, the knight's crest on the passage, and now this warning. Someone plays a game with us, and you, I think, are a pawn. They did not expect to move so boldly." Clara's face paled. "You think I'm in danger, perhaps?" Poirot said, his tone calm but firm. "But with Poirot, you are safe, for now. Tell me, did you see anything else in Cairo? Anything that connects Evelyn to this brooch, or to Ashwood Hall?" Clara shook her head, her expression earnest. "Nothing specific. She mentioned a patron once, someone funding her digs, but she never named them. She was secretive, always looking over her shoulder. That's why I thought it was the curse talk getting to her. But now I wonder if she knew someone was after her." Before Poirot could press further, a sharp crack shattered the garden's tranquility, a gunshot echoing from the direction of the drawing room. Clara gasped, clutching Poirot's arm. What was that? Poirot's eyes sharpened, his body already turning toward the sound. "Come, mademoiselle, we must investigate, but stay close." His voice was steady, commanding, as he led her swiftly back to the hall. His cane now a silent extension of his purpose. They entered through the French doors, the drawing room, a scene of controlled chaos. The guests were gathered, their faces a mix of shock and suspicion. Lady Beatrice Langston stood by the fireplace, her hands clasped tightly, her sharp features taut with unease. Sir Henry Wells, the colonel, paced near the windows, his ring glinting as he muttered about damned nonsense. Lord Ashwood sat in a high-backed chair, his expression unreadable, while the servants hovered nervously at the edges of the room. At the center of the chaos stood the puzzle box, or what remained of it. Its intricate wood was splintered, the lid shattered as if struck with force. The emerald brooch was still there, nestled in its velvet lining, but a small compartment beside it was empty. Poirot's keen eyes scanned the wreckage, noting a faint scorch mark on the table beneath, suggesting the gunshot's proximity. "Who fired the shot?" Poirot demanded, his voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. The butler, a wiry man named Jenkins, stepped forward, his face pale. "Heard it from the hall, sir, and ran in. No one was here when I arrived, but the box, it was like this." Poirot knelt beside the table, his gloved fingers brushing the splintered wood. "The bullet, it did not strike the box directly," he mused. "The damage is from force, not gunfire. Shot. It was a distraction, to cover the theft of something within." Lady Beatrice's voice was sharp. "Theft. The brooch is still there, Monsieur Poirot. What could have been taken? Poirot's gaze lingered on the empty compartment. Something small, yet significant. Clue, perhaps, to the game we are playing. He stood, addressing the room. Ms. Amos remained calm. Poirot will discover the truth. For now, no one leaves this room. He turned to Clara, his voice low. Mademoiselle, you will stay with me. Your knowledge, it is now a key, and we must protect it. As the guests settled uneasily, Poirot examined the room further. His eyes caught a faint glint beneath a nearby armchair bullet, lodged in the floorboard, its angle suggesting it came from a high window. He retrieved it with a handkerchief, noting its small caliber, likely from a lady's pistol. The window above was slightly ajar, its latch loose, suggesting someone had climbed out or tore in. Interesting, Poirot murmured, pocketing the bullet. Okay, the shot was fired from outside, yet the box was broken here. Two hands at work, perhaps, or one very clever one. Sir Henry coughed, his face flushed. This is madness. First, Evelyn disappears. Now, gunshots. Someone's trying to scare us out of our wits. Or, to distract us, Poirot countered, his tone sharp. Fear is a tool, Colonel, and someone wields it with precision. But Poirot, he is not so easily distracted. Turned to Clara, guiding her to a corner away from the others. Your letter, Mademoiselle, it mentioned the night. This theft, this shot, they are moves in the same game. We must find what was taken from the box. Did you see anything inside it last night? Anything besides the brooch? Clara frowned, her brow creasing as she recalled the dinner. There was something small next to the brooch. A white object, like a chess piece, but I couldn't see it clearly. Was gone when the box was opened again. A chess piece, Poirot repeated, his eyes gleaming. The knight's gambit, perhaps. A pawn to signal the next move. He glanced at the shattered box, his mind racing. We must search the room, mademoiselle, but discreetly. The thief may still be among us. Together, they combed the drawing room, Poirot's meticulous eye scanning every detail. Beneath a cushion on a settee, he found a single white thread, barely visible, caught on a splinter of wood. He held it up to the light, noting its fine texture, unlike the coarse upholstery. Clue, perhaps, from the thief's clothing, he said, slipping it into his pocket with a bullet as the servants began clearing the debris. Poirot addressed the guests, his voice calm but authoritative. Ms. Amos, the danger is past for now. The shot was meant to unsettle, not to harm. But the game continues, and Poirot will not rest until the board is cleared. Return to your rooms, but remain vigilant. The truth, it is close. The guests dispersed, their whispers trailing like smoke. Clara lingered, her face pale but resolute. What now, Monsieur Poirot? If that pawn was taken, what does it mean? It means, mademoiselle, that the orchestrator of this game grows bold, Poirot replied, his eyes narrowing. They wish to control the board, but Poirot, he plays his own game. We will find this pawn, and with it, the hand that moves it. They left the drawing room. The hall's grandfather clock chimed noon, its deep toll echoing through the silent manor. Poirot's mind buzzed with connections, the brooch, the cipher, the knight's crest, and now the stolen pawn. Clara's secret had unlocked a piece of the puzzle, but the board was still shrouded in shadow. He resolved to watch the guests closely, knowing the next move would come soon, and with it, a chance to turn the game in his favor. The rose gardens faded behind them as they re-entered the hall. The weight of secrets pressing heavier with each step. Poirot's gray cells worked tirelessly, weaving the threads of evidence into a tapestry only he could yet see. The actress's secret was but one move in a sinister game, and Hercule Poirot was determined to checkmate the unseen player before the final piece fell. Chapter 6. The colonel's confession. The air in Ashwood Hall carried a chill that seemed to seep from the very walls, as if the stones themselves were complicit in the secrets they guarded. Hercule Poirot, his mustache impeccably trimmed and his mind as sharp as the edge of a freshly honed blade, stood in the billiard room, his small frame casting a shadow that belied the weight of his presence. The green baize of the billiard table gleamed under the chandelier's light, silent witness to the tension that hung between him and Colonel Sir Henry Wells, whose weathered face betrayed a flicker of unease. The events of the previous night, gunshot, the shattered puzzle box, and the missing chess pawn had left the guests of Ashwood Hall in a state of restless agitation. The blood-soaked scarf found in the chapel, though likely another theatrical ruse, had only deepened the unease. Poirot, however, was not one to be swayed by theatrics. His little gray cells, as he fondly called them, were already weaving a tapestry of connections, each thread a clue, each not a motive. Mon ami Poirot began, his voice smooth as polished mahogany. You'll permit me to observe that your ring-C bijou with a knight's crest has caused you some discomfort this morning, is it not so? Sir Henry, leaning against a billiard table, his fingers drumming a nervous rhythm on the polished wood, gave a curt nod. His military bearing, so evident in his ramrod posture and clipped speech at dinner, seemed to falter under Poirot's piercing gaze. The ring, a heavy silver band etched with the same knight's crest that adorned the puzzle box and the hidden passage, glinted as he shifted his hand. A family heirloom, Sir Henry said gruffly, his eyes darting to the window, where the gray autumn light filtered through leaded panes. Nothing more. A trinket from my grandfather's time. Poirot tilted his head, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if peering through the colonel's words to the truth beneath. A trinket, you say? Yet it is curious, is it not, that this same crest appears in places most unexpected. The puzzle box, the passage, and now Pater, in the heart of this game we are all playing. You will forgive Poirot if he finds this coincidence en pal trop commode. Sir Henry's jaw tightened, and for a moment the room was silent, save for the faint tick of a clock on the mantel. The colonel straightened, his hand dropping from the table to his side, as if to hide the ring from further scrutiny. I don't know what you're implying, Poirot. I'm a guest here, same as you. I have no part in this nonsense about blood and ciphers. And yet, Poirot continued, stepping closer, his polished shoes silent on the thick carpet, your eyes, they betray you. When the gunshot rang out last night, you did not leap to action, as a soldier might. You looked to Lady Beatrice, n'est-ce pas? A glance so fleeting, yet so heavy with meaning. What is it that binds you to her, Colonel? To this crest that seems to haunt Ashwood Hall. The mention of Lady Beatrice Langston, the sharp-tongued heiress whose poise had cracked under the weight of the weekend's events, seemed to strike a nerve. Sir Henry's face reddened, and he turned away, pacing toward the fireplace. The flames cast flickering shadows across his lined features, revealing a man caught between defiance and surrender. Damn it, Poirot, he muttered, his voice low but edged with desperation. You're too clever by half. Yes, the crest means something. It's no mere heirloom. It's the mark of the Order of the Night, a society my family was tied to long ago. A foolish thing, really old men playing at secret handshakes and coded oaths. It dissolved decades ago, before I was born. Or so I thought. Poirot's eyes gleamed with interest, but he remained silent, allowing the colonel's words to spill forth like water from a breached dam. Sir Henry ran a hand through his thinning hair, his composure fraying. I didn't think it mattered, he continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper. When I saw the crest on that blasted puzzle box, I thought it was Ashwood's idea of a jest. But then the cipher, the blood, Evelyn's disappearance. It's all too much like the old stories. The order guarded something a chess set, they said, from some medieval knight accused of treason. Worth a fortune? Or so the legend goes. I never believed it. But he hesitated, his eyes flicking toward the door, as if expecting an eavesdropper. But Poirot prompted, his tone gentle yet insistent, like a surgeon probing a wound. Sir Henry sighed, his shoulders sagging. But Beatrice, it's her family, the Langstons. They were rivals to the Ashwoods. Centuries ago, they fought over that chess set. Blood was spilled, fortunes lost. When I saw her reaction to the crest yesterday, I knew she recognized it too. She's hiding something, Poirot. I'd stake my life on it. Poirot nodded slowly, his mind cataloging every word, every nuance of the Colonel's confession. It was a piece of the puzzle, but not the whole picture. The order of the night, the chess set, the crest, they were threads in a larger web. One that ensnared not just Sir Henry and Lady Beatrice, but perhaps every guest in Ashwood Hall. And yet the Colonel's admission felt incomplete, as if he were holding back a final, crucial detail before Poirot could press further. A sharp rap at the door interrupted them. It was Hastings, Poirot's loyal friend and occasional confidant, his face flushed with urgency. Poirot, you'd better come quickly. They found something in the drawing room where the gunshot was fired. Poirot excused himself with a polite nod to Sir Henry, who looked relieved to be spared further questioning. As they hurried down the corridor, Hastings filled him in. It's the portrait, Poirot, the one of Ashwood's ancestor, the knight. There's a bullet lodged in it, right through the heart. The drawing room was a scene of controlled chaos when they arrived. The guests hovered near the doorway, their faces a mix of curiosity and dread. Lord Ashwood stood by the fireplace, his usually composed demeanor strained, while Lady Beatrice lingered near the window, her gloved hands clasped tightly. Clara Beaumont, the actress, sat on a velvet settee, her eyes wide with a nervous energy. The portrait in question, a stern-faced knight in medieval armor. Its crest, identical to the one on Sir Henry's ring, hung above the mantel, a jagged hole piercing the canvas where the heart would be. Poirot approached the portrait, his eyes scanning the damage with clinical precision. The bullet, still embedded, was small caliber, likely from a pistol. He traced the trajectory with a glance, noting the angle led toward the upper floor, specifically toward the guest rooms. A quick mental map of the house confirmed his suspicion. The shot could have come from Lady Beatrice's room. Monsieur Poirot murmured, turning to the assembled guests. This bullet, it is no accident. It is a message. But to whom, and from whom? Lady Beatrice's lips parted, as if to protest, but she quickly pressed them shut, her eyes darting to Sir Henry. Poirot noted the exchange, his mind filing it away for later scrutiny. Before he could question her, a servant burst into the room, his face pale as chalk. "Mr. Poirot, sir?" the young man stammered. "We found something in the chapel. It's Dr. Hart's scarf, soaked in blood, sir." Collective gasp rose from the guests, and Clara let out a small cry. Poirot raised a hand for silence, his expression calm but commanding. "Calmez-vous, my friends. We shall investigate. But this at once. But let us not leap to conclusions. It can be many things, a warning, a deception, or, pater, a cry for help." He led the way to the chapel, a small stone building nestled at the edge of Ashwood's gardens. Inside was damp and heavy with the scent of old wood and wax. On the altar, draped across a brass candelabrum, lay Evelyn Hart's scarf, its vibrant blue fabric marred by a dark, glistening stain. Poirot knelt beside it, his gloved fingers carefully lifting the edge. The stain was wet, but the texture was wrong, too thick, too deliberate and terrescent. He said softly, "Producing a small vial from his pocket and scraping a sample of the substance. This is not blood, I think. It's paint, or perhaps dye, applied with care to mimic a gruesome scene. Dr. Hart, she is not harmed, not yet. This is another move in our Sinister. The guests murmured among themselves, their relief tempered by confusion. Lord Ashwood, his voice tight, demanded, "Then where is she, Poirot? If this is all a game, why has Evelyn vanished?" Poirot stood, brushing a speck of dust from his sleeve. That mon cher Lord Ashwood is what Poirot intends to discover. But first, we must return to the drawing room. There is one detail I must confirm. Back in the drawing room, Poirot's attention turned to Lady Beatrice, who stood apart from the others, her face a mask of composure that did not quite reach her eyes. He approached her with the grace of a dancer, his voice low but firm. "Lady Beatrice," he said, "you will permit me to observe that your handkerchief, it is most distinctive. The embroidery, it is the knight's crest, Nan. And yet there is a stain upon it, a faint trace of gunpowder, perhaps." Her eyes widened, and she instinctively tucked the handkerchief into her sleeve. "I don't know what you mean," she said, her voice sharp but unsteady. "I was in my room when the shot was fired. I had nothing to do with it." Poirot smiled, a small, knowing curve of his lips. "Bean, sir, madame, but the bullet, it comes from the direction of your room, and the handkerchief, it tells a story of its own. Perhaps you will share it with Poirot in private." Before she could respond, Clara Beaumont stood, her hands trembling. "This is madness. First the blood, now bullets and scarves. What are we to do, Mr. Poirot? Are we all to be targets in this wretched game?" Poirot turned to her, his tone soothing, but authoritative. "Fear not, Mademoiselle Beaumont. Poirot is here, and he will see that no harm comes to those who are innocent. But we must be vigilant. The one who plays this game, they are clever, but not so clever as Hercule Poirot." As the guests dispersed, their nerves frayed, but their trust in Poirot's.com authority holding them together, he lingered in the drawing room, his eyes returning to the portrait. The knight's stern gaze seemed to mock him, as if daring him to unravel the next move. He reached into his pocket, retrieving the cipher from the library, the one that spoke of the knight's gambit. It was time, he decided, to delve deeper into the history of the Order of the Night and its connection to Ashwood Hall. That evening, as the house settled into an uneasy quiet, Poirot sat in his room, a single candle casting a warm glow over his notes. He had pieced together much: the order, the chess set, the brooch's cursed origins, and now the bullet and the scarf. But the orchestrator of this game remained elusive, a shadow moving just beyond his reach. Sir Henry's confession had opened a door, but it was Lady Beatrice's reaction and her gunpowder-stained handkerchief that held the key to the next revelation. He closed his notebook, his mind already plotting the next move. Tomorrow, he would inspect the guest rooms, starting with Beatrice's, the bullet's trajectory, the handkerchief, the crest. They were all pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, would reveal the truth. For now, he extinguished the candle, the darkness enveloping him like the mystery itself. But Hercule Poirot was not afraid of the dark. His little gray cells thrived in it. The next morning, Poirot rose early, his routine as precise as ever. A cup of tisane, a careful adjustment of his tie, and he was ready to face the day. He requested Lord Ashwood's permission to inspect the guest rooms, framing it as a precaution to ensure everyone's safety. Ashwood, though visibly irritated, could hardly refuse without arousing suspicion. With Hastings at his side, Poirot began with Lady Beatrice's room, located on the second floor, its window perfectly aligned with the drawing room below. The room was a study in elegance, with silk drapes and a four-poster bed adorned with intricate carvings. Poirot's eyes, however, were drawn to the writing desk, where a small stack of letters lay neatly arranged. He donned his gloves, always prepared for such moments, when carefully lifted the topmost letter. It was addressed to Beatrice, written in a hand that matched the cryptic note from the chapel. The game claims its second piece. Monsieur, Poirot murmured, his mind racing. The handwriting was not Ashwood's, nor was it Sir Henry's. It was precise, almost feminine, with a flourish that suggested confidence. He slipped the letter into his pocket, tending to compare it later with Clara's warning note. Hastings, ever eager, pointed to a small jewelry box on the dresser. "What about that, Poirot? Could be something in there?" Poirot opened it, revealing a collection of delicate pins and earrings. But one item stood out, a brooch, not unlike the emerald one from the puzzle box, though this one was set with a ruby. Its design was unmistakable, the knight's crest, etched into the gold. He turned it over, noting a faint inscription, to be from R. 1890. R for Reginald, perhaps, Hastings ventured. "Lord Ashwood's father," Poirot replied, his tone thoughtful. "Or another R, one we have yet to meet. This brooch, it is a link to the past and to the Langston-Ashwood feud. But why does Lady Beatrice keep it hidden?" Before they could delve further, a soft knock at the door announced Lady Beatrice herself. She froze at the sight of Poirot, holding the ruby brooch, her face draining of color. "What are you doing in my room?" she demanded, her voice sharp but trembling. Poirot turned, the brooch glinting in his hand. "Pardon moi, madame, but the truth, it does not respect privacy. This brooch, it is connected to the crest, to the order, and, I suspect, to the bullet that pierced the knight's heart. You will tell Poirot its story. See vous plot." Beatrice hesitated, her eyes flicking to the door as if considering flight. But Poirot's steady gaze held her, and she sank onto the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly. "It was my mother's," she said at last, her voice barely above a whisper. "A gift from Reginald Ashwood's father before the families fell out. They were close once. But the chest said the one the order guarded it drove them apart. My mother said it was cursed, that it brought ruin to anyone who sought it." "And you?" Poirot pressed. "Do you seek it, madame, or do you fear it?" She met his gaze, her eyes fierce despite her pallor. "I want nothing to do with it. But when I saw the crest on that puzzle box, I knew someone was stirring up. The past, I didn't fire that shot, Poirot. I swear it." Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. "The cord, but the handkerchief, the gunpowder, how do you explain these?" Beatrice's hands tightened, and she looked away. "I handled a firearm yesterday, in the study. Ashwood keeps a collection there. I was curious, nothing more. I didn't shoot at the portrait." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Curiosity, madame, is a dangerous thing in a house such as this. But Poirot, he will keep your secret for now. You will remain under my observation, comprenez-vous?" She nodded, her shoulders slumping in reluctant surrender. Poirot and Hastings left the room, the ruby brooch safely tucked into Poirot's pocket. As they descended the stairs, Hastings whispered, "Do you believe her, Poirot, about the shot?" "Mon cher Hastings," Poirot replied, "Lady Beatrice speaks the truth, but not the whole truth. The shot, it was not meant to kill, but to warn, and the gunpowder on her handkerchief it is too convenient, too deliberate. Someone wishes us to suspect her, to distract from the true orchestrator." Back in the drawing room, Poirot gathered the guests, his demeanor calm but authoritative. He held up the ruby brooch, letting it catch the light. "This, my friends, is another piece of our puzzle. Speaks of old alliances, old betrayals, and a chess set that binds you all. But fear, not Hercule, was close to the truth. We shall play this game to its end, and the one who moves the pieces in the shadows, they shall be revealed." As the guests exchanged uneasy glances, Poirot's mind was already at work, piecing together the connections, The order, the chess set, the brooch, the bullet, the scarf. The game was indeed sinister, but it was not yet checkmate. He would need to tread carefully, for the next move could be deadly. The day passed in a haze of suspicion. With the guests avoiding each other's eyes at luncheon, their conversations stilted and cautious. Poirot, however, was relentless, his inquiries subtle but persistent. He spoke with the servants, learning of a groundskeeper who had seen a cloaked figure near the chapel the previous night, carrying a small bundle. He examined the study, confirming Beatrice's story about the firearms, but noting that one pistol, a small caliber model, was missing from its case. By evening, as the guests gathered for dinner, Poirot's plan was taking shape. In would stage a test, a way to draw out the orchestrator. The ruby brooch, the cipher, the knight's crest, they were all part of a pattern, and he was determined to break it. He excused himself early, claiming a need to review his notes, but in truth, he was preparing for the next act in this deadly drama. As the clock struck 10, Poirot slipped into the library, where the puzzle box had first revealed its secrets. He lit a single candle, its flame casting eerie shadows across the shelves. He placed a ruby brooch on the desk beside the cipher and waited. If his instincts were correct, the orchestrator would not resist the bait. Minutes ticked by, the house silent, save for the occasional creak of settling wood. Then a soft click, the sound of a door opening. Poirot's hand tightened on his cane, his senses alert. A figure stepped into the light, cloaked in shadow, their face obscured. They reached for the brooch, but Poirot was faster, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Arates, the game, it is over. Hercule Poirot has seen your move, and he counters it. The figure froze, and as the candlelight flickered, Poirot saw the glint of a familiar ring, the knight's crest. The chapter closed with the figure turning slowly, their identity still a mystery, but Poirot's triumph imminent. The game was nearing its end, and he was one step closer to checkmate. Chapter 7. The hidden vault. The air in Ashwood Hall hung heavy with the scent of old wood and wax polish. Testament to centuries of meticulous care. Hercule Poirot, his small, precise steps echoing softly on the polished oak floors, moved through the shadowed corridors with purpose. The events of the past days, the blood-stained emerald brooch, the cryptic cipher, the vanishing archaeologist, and the knight's crest had woven a tapestry of intrigue that demanded his full attention. His gray cells, as he so often called them, were alight with the challenge. Each clue a thread to be unraveled in the grand design of the truth. It was early afternoon, and the autumn sun filtered through the tall, mullioned windows, casting golden slants across the walls adorned with portraits of stern Ashwood ancestors. The house, though grand, felt stifled, as if it held its breath, waiting for the next move in what Poirot now knew was a carefully orchestrated game. The Colonel, Sir Henry Wells, had provided a reluctant hint during their confrontation in the billiard room, a vague reference to a sanctuary of secrets beneath the estate, a place tied to the knight's crest that had appeared repeatedly in the mystery's unfolding. Poirot, ever mistrustful of half-truths, had pressed Sir Henry until the man's composure cracked. Revealing the existence of a vault beneath the chapel, a vault, he claimed, that held answers to the enigma of the emerald brooch. Now, as Poirot approached the chapel, a small stone structure nestled at the edge of Ashwood's sprawling gardens, he felt the weight of the moment. The chapel's Gothic arches loomed against a graying sky, ivy clinging to its weathered stones like secrets clinging to a guilty conscience. The door, heavy oak with iron fittings, creaked as he pushed it open, revealing a dim interior lit only by the flicker of votive candles. The air was cool, damp with the scent of stone and time. And Poirot's sharp eyes scanned the space, a simple altar, a few pews, and the stained-glass window depicting a knight in armor, shield bearing the now familiar crest. Monsieur Poirot murmured, adjusting his mustache with a delicate touch. "The knight's crest. It is everywhere. Nest, CEP. A symbol that binds this game together. But to what end?" He moved toward the altar, his patent leather shoes clicking softly. The knight's crest was etched into the stone floor before it, worn but unmistakable, its lines sharp as if carved with purpose. Poirot knelt, his gloved fingers tracing the grooves, searching for a mechanism. Sir Henry had been vague, but his mention of a key hidden in the puzzle box's lining had sparked Poirot's curiosity. From his waistcoat pocket, he produced the small brass key he had found that morning, concealed within the velvet lining of the shattered puzzle box. Its head bore the same crest, a miniature echo of the chapel's design, with a gentle click. Poirot inserted the key into a near-invisible slot in the altar's base. A low, grinding sound followed, and a section of the floor slid aside, revealing a narrow stone staircase descending into darkness. Dust motes danced in the faint light, and Poirot, ever cautious, retrieved a small flashlight from his coda. Modern convenience he permitted himself for such moments. Ups! The beam illuminated the steps, each worn smooth by centuries of secretive footsteps. "Allure," he said softly. The game descends, and Poirot follows. The staircase spiraled tightly, its walls damp and moss-slicked. At its base, Poirot found a heavy iron door, surface etched with the knight's crest, now more elaborate, surrounded by Latin inscriptions. The schoolboy Latin, rusty but serviceable, allowed him to decipher the words veritas in umbris, truth in the shadows. The key turned smoothly in the lock, and the door groaned open, revealing a vault no larger than a modest drawing room. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of parchment and metal. Poirot's flashlight swept across the space, revealing shelves lined with leather-bound ledgers. A small table cluttered with artifacts, and a locked chest in the corner, its lid engraved with the inevitable crest. The vault felt like the heart of Ashwood Hall's secrets, a place where truths had been buried for generations. He approached the table, where a pile of letters lay scattered, their wax seals broken, each bearing the crest. His gloved hands carefully lifted the topmost letter. Its paper yellowed, but intact. The letter, written in a precise hand, detailed a blackmail demand, a sum of £10,000 to keep silent about the theft of an emerald brooch from an Egyptian tomb in 1919. The recipient was unnamed, but the letter referenced a Dr. E.H. had smuggled the gem to England under the employ of an anonymous patron. Poirot's lips pursed as he recognized the initials Dr. Evelyn Hart, the missing archaeologist. Another letter, dated a month later, warned of consequences if the brooch was not returned, mentioning a final game to be played at Ashwood Hall. The signature was a single initial, K. "The Knight," Poirot whispered, his mind racing. But who is this K, and why orchestrate such a charade? He sifted through more letters, each revealing fragments of a larger scheme. One described the brooch as part of a cursed set of artifacts stolen from a pharaoh's tomb and linked to a series of misfortunes. Another hinted at a rivalry between the Ashwood and Langston families, suggesting Lady Beatrice's ancestors had once claimed ownership of the chess set tied to the knight's crest. The letters painted a picture of greed, betrayal, and a desperate bid to control the brooch's power, whether financial or supernatural. Poirot could not yet say. As he reached for a final letter, a faint creak echoed from the staircase. His flashlight snapped off, plunging the vault into darkness. Poirot's senses sharpened, his heart steady despite the sudden silence. Someone had followed him. He slipped behind the chest, his small frame concealed in the shadows, and waited. Creak grew closer, accompanied by the soft rustle of fabric. A figure emerged into the vault, their silhouette framed by the faint glow from the staircase. The intruder moved cautiously, their breath uneven, and paused at the table. Their hands fumbling over the letters. Poirot stepped forward, his flashlight clicking on to reveal Lady Beatrice Langston, her face pale, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and defiance. Her dark hair was slightly disheveled, and her silk dress caught the light, shimmering like a guilty secret. "Madame," Poirot said, his voice calm but firm, "it is not polite to spy on Hercule Poirot, especially in a place so full of truth you perhaps wish to keep hidden." Beatrice gasped, her hand clutching a letter she had snatched from the table. "Monsieur Poirot, I didn't mean to startle you. I saw you enter the chapel, and had to know what you'd found." Poirot's mustache twitched. "What, pray, do you seek in this vault? Is the truth about the emerald brooch, or something more personal to the House of Langston?" Beatrice's composure faltered, her fingers tightening around the letter. "You've read them, haven't you?" "The letters. They mention my family, my grandfather. He was involved in the brooch's theft years ago. He thought it would save our estate, but it brought nothing but ruin. I came here to find proof, to clear our name." Crow tilted his head, his eyes narrowing. "And yet, madame, you did not come to me, the detective, with this confession. You crept into the shadows, like the knight in this game." "Why?" She hesitated, her gaze darting to the chest. I feared what else might be here. My grandfather wrote of a debt, a promise to the Order of the Knight. Demanded the brooch's return, or they'd expose us. I thought if I found the letters first, I could destroy them." Poirot stepped closer, his voice soft but unyielding. "And the gunshot, madame, the one that struck the portrait in the drawing room. Your handkerchief, it carries the scent of gunpowder. Nan?" Beatrice's eyes widened, but she shook her head vehemently. "I didn't fire that shot, I swear. I was in my room when it happened. Someone must have planted the handkerchief to frame me." Poirot studied her, his gray cells weighing her words against the evidence. The gunpowder on her handkerchief was damning, yet her fear seemed genuine. He gestured to the letter in her hand. "Show me, if you please, what you have taken." Reluctantly, she handed him the letter. It was brief, addressed to her grandfather, demanding the brooch's return, or the revelation of a scandal that would ruin the Langstons. Esquina was again K. Poirot folded the letter and slipped it into his pocket, its expression unreadable. "Madame," he said, "you will return to the hall, and you will speak of this to no one. Hercule Poirot will decide what is to be done with these secrets." Beatrice nodded, her shoulders sagging with relief or defeat. Poirot could not yet tell which. As she ascended the staircase, he lingered, his flashlight sweeping the vault once more. The chest caught his eye, its lock gleaming in the beam. He approached, testing the key, but it did not fit. The chest, it seemed, held yet another secret, one that required a different key or, perhaps, a different approach. He sealed the vault, showing the letters were secure in his satchel, and emerged into the chapel. The stained glass night seemed to watch him, its colors muted in the fading light. Poirot's mind churned, piecing together the puzzle, the brooch's theft, the Order of the Knight, the blackmail, and now Lady Beatrice's desperate search for redemption. Someone, he knew, was still watching, orchestrating the game from the shadows. The creak in the vault had been no accident, and the K who signed the letters was no phantom. Chapter 8. The stolen pawn. The morning mist clung to Ashwood Hall like a shroud, its tendrils curling around the estate's ivy-clad walls, as Hercule Poirot stood by the tall windows of the drawing-room, his eyes tracing the Duquesne gardens beyond. The air inside was thick with unease, the previous night's gunshots still echoing in the guests' minds, though no blood had been spilled. The emerald brooch, its sinister gleam, dulled by the locked glass case in Lord Ashwood's study, remained the axis around which suspicion spun. Poirot's gray cells, ever restless, churned through the clues, the cipher's warning of a knight's gambit, the bloodied walking stick, Evelyn Hart's vanishing, and the bullet lodged in the ancestral portrait. Each fragment pointed to a game meticulously orchestrated, yet the orchestrator remained a shadow to break the tension and draw out the players. Poirot proposed a chess match in the Grand Salon, a calculated move to observe the guests under pressure. The salon, with its high ceilings and gilt-framed mirrors, buzzed with forced civility as the group gathered around a polished rosewood chessboard. Its pieces carved in ebony and ivory, the knight's crest faintly etched on each base. Lord Ashwood, his silver hair gleaming under the chandelier, agreed with a tight smile, though his eyes flicked nervously to the locked study door. Lady Beatrice Langston, her emerald green dress a stark contrast to her pale face, sipped tea with trembling hands. Sir Henry Wells, the colonel, adjusted his cufflinks, his ring's knightly crest catching the light. Clara Beaumont, the actress, draped herself in a chair, her smile brittle as she avoided Poirot's gaze. The groundskeeper, Thomas Reed, lingered at the room's edge, summoned to serve tea, but watching the board with unusual intensity. Poirot, immaculate in his pinstriped suit, took the white pieces, offering Sir Henry the black. A game of chess, mon ami, is like life, he said, his voice light but piercing. Each move reveals intent. Non, let us see who plays boldly. Sir Henry grunted, moving a pawn to e5, his fingers lingering on the piece. Poirot countered, with a knight to f3, his eyes scanning the room for tells. Lady Beatrice's teacup rattled. Clara's fan snapped shut. The game progressed, each move a silent duel, until Poirot paused, his hand hovering over the board. There, in the center, sat a single ebony pawn, the one missing from the shattered puzzle box the night before. It had not been there. When the game began, the room stilled. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured, lifting the pawn. Tucked beneath it was a folded note, its edges crisp. He unfolded it with deliberate care, revealing a scrawl in black ink. Check in 3 moves. The handwriting was sharp, angular, eerily similar to the warning letter Clara had shown him in the rose gardens. Poirot's mustache twitched, his mind racing. The pawn's return was no accident, was a taunt, a challenge from the game's unseen master. Who placed this here? Poirot's voice cut through the silence, his gaze pinning each guest. Lord Ashwood paled, muttering about a servant's oversight. Beatrice's lips parted, but no words came. Sir Henry's jaw tightened, his ring glinting as he clenched his fist. Clara's eyes darted to the door, her fingers twisting her pearl necklace. Thomas, the groundskeeper, shifted, his weathered hands gripping the tea tray. Poirot pocketed the note, his expression serene, but his mind a storm. The pawn's reappearance confirmed a single orchestrator, one who knew the house's secrets and the guests' fears. Perhaps, Poirot said, rising, we should seek answers elsewhere. Monsieur Reed, you mentioned a figure by the lake last night. Oui. The groundskeeper nodded, his voice gruff. Aye, sir. Cloaked, they were, near the old boathouse. Dropped something, looked like a bottle, glinting red in the moonlight. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Then we shall visit this boathouse, Mies, Amos. The truth, it hides in the shadows, but not for long. The group, reluctant, but compelled by Poirot's authority, followed him across the estate's sprawling lawns, the mist parting like a curtain. The boathouse, a weathered structure by the lake's edge, loomed in the gray light, its wooden slats warped by time. Poirot knelt by the water, his gloved fingers sifting through the reeds. There, half buried in mud, was a small glass vial, its contents a viscous red. He uncorked it, sniffing delicately. Paint, he announced, holding it aloft. Theatrical paint, the kind used to mimic blood. The stains on the colonel's stick, a Mademoiselle Hart's scar, This is their source, Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. It's a trick then. No one's been hurt. Poirot's gaze softened, but only slightly. Not yet, mademoiselle. But tricks, they conceal truths. This paint is a message, a distraction to unsettle the guilty. He turned to the group, his voice firm. Someone among us knows who placed this vial, who left the pawn. Speak, or I shall find you out. The guests exchanged uneasy glances, but none spoke. Poirot's eyes lingered on Clara, whose confession in the gardens had revealed her Cairo connection to Evelyn and the brooch. Mademoiselle Beaumont, he said, stepping closer. You told me of your patron, the one who hired you to watch Dr. Hart. This pawn, this paint, they belong to him. Clara's composure cracked, her voice trembling. I don't know his name, Monsieur Poirot. I swear it. He wrote to me months ago, promising a fortune if I came here and reported on Evelyn. He mentioned the order of the night, said they'd kill me if I betrayed them. She pulled a crumpled letter from her sleeve, its seal broken but bearing the knight's crest. Poirot took it, noting the handwriting matched the pawn's note. He's here, Clara whispered. One of them, watching us. Poirot folded the letter, his mind aligning the pieces. The order of the night, the brooch's curse, the staged bloodstains. The pawns returned. The game was closing in, its moves calculated to expose or destroy. Very well, he said, his tone deceptively. We returned to the hall. Tonight, I set a trap, and our player will reveal himself, the pawn. It is bait, Nan. Back in the salon, Poirot orchestrated the evening with precision. He placed the pawn on a velvet cushion in the center of the chessboard, announcing it would remain there until dinner's end. Let us dine, he said, and let the game continue. The meal was a strained affair, the clink of silverware punctuating awkward silences. Lord Ashwood's forced laughter grated. Beatrice's eyes flicked to the pawn. Sir Henry's fingers drummed on the table. Clara, pale but composed, sat beside Poirot, her trust in him unspoken but clear. Thomas served the wine, his gaze lingering. On the board, as dessert was cleared, Poirot excused himself, claiming a need for air. In truth, he slipped into the shadows of the adjoining study, where he'd rigged a thread across the chessboard's base, tied to a bell hidden behind a curtain. If the pawn moved, he'd know. The hours crept by, the house settling into a deceptive calm. Then, a faint chime broke the silence of the bell. Poirot emerged, swift and silent, to find the pawn gone. The thread snapped. The salon was empty, the guests retired, but a faint creak came from the library. He entered, his cane tapping softly, and caught a glimpse of a figure slipping through the hidden passage behind the bookcase, the same passage where Evelyn's glove was found. Arrêtez, Poirot called, but the figure vanished, leaving only a folded paper on the floor. He retrieved it, reading, "The knight moves to b4. Check." The note's handwriting was unmistakable, tying the figure to Clara's patron and the pawn's taunt. Poirot's lips curved. The game was nearing its end, and he would spring his true trap tomorrow. For now, he locked the note with the others, his mind mapping the final moves. The orchestrator was close, their arrogance betrayed by their need to taunt. Ashwood Hall slept. Poirot sat by the fire. The pawn's absence, a silent promise. The night would fall, and the truth would rise. Chapter 9. The trap springs. The clock in Ashwood Hall's library struck 11. Its chimes reverberating through the high-ceilinged room, where shadows danced across oak-paneled walls. Hercule Poirot stood alone, his silhouette sharp against the flickering glow of a single candelabrum. The emerald brooch, its facets catching the light like a malevolent eye, rested under a glass case on the mahogany desk. The case was no ordinary display. Poirot had rigged it with a delicate mechanism, a hidden bell, concealed beneath the desk, would ring at the slightest disturbance. His trap was set, and the night held its breath. The events of the past days swirled in Poirot's mind, each clue a thread in a tapestry of deception. The blood-stained brooch, the cipher's warning of the night's gambit, the vanished archaeologist, the night's crest tying the guests to a shadowy order, and the theatrical paint masquerading as blood. He had unraveled much, but the orchestrator of this sinister game remained cloaked. Tonight, Poirot would force their hand. He adjusted his waistcoat, his mustache impeccable despite the late hour, murmured to himself, "The gray cells, they do not rest. The truth, it hides, but it cannot resist the order and method of Hercule Poirot." He extinguished the candelabrum, plunging the library into darkness. Save for the moonlight filtering through the tall windows, he slipped into an alcove behind a velvet curtain, his small frame blending into the shadows, and waited. The house was silent, its guests supposedly asleep after the day's chess match, where the reappearance of the stolen pawn had tightened the noose of suspicion. Poirot's staged game had been a calculated move, not to entertain, but to observe. The note on the pawn, "Check in 3 moves," had matched the handwriting of Clara Beaumont's mysterious letter, suggesting a single mind behind the weekend's chaos. Thumb's keeper's sighting of a cloaked figure by the lake, dropping a vial of theatrical paint, had confirmed Poirot's suspicion. The bloodstains were a ruse, designed to unsettle rather than signal murder. But who was pulling the strings? Clara, coerced by an unknown patron; Sir Henry, with his secret society ring; Lady Beatrice, whose gunpowder-stained handkerchief betrayed her composure; or Lord Ashwood himself, the enigmatic host whose motives remained opaque. Minutes ticked by, each second measured by the soft tick of Poirot's pocket watch. Then a faint creak broke the stillness, the library door easing open. A figure entered, their movements cautious, almost feline. Moonlight revealed a tall silhouette clad in a dark dressing gown, pausing to scan the room. Poirot's eyes narrowed. The figure approached the desk, their hand hovering over the glass case. A soft click, and the bell beneath the desk chimed to sharp, deliberate sound that shattered the silence. Poirot stepped from the alcove, his voice cutting through the darkness like a blade. "Bonsoir, Lord Ashwood. The game, it seems, has reached its climax." Lord Reginald Ashwood froze, his hand inches from the brooch. His patrician features, usually composed, twitched with surprise, though he quickly masked it with a wry smile. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, his voice smooth as polished marble, "you are as relentless as your reputation suggests. I merely wished to ensure the brooch's safety." Poirot tilted his head, his eyes glinting. "Safety, mon ami, or possession? The bell, it does not lie. You sought to take what you invited us to unravel." Toy. Ashwood's smile faltered. He straightened, his tall frame looming over the desk, but Poirot's unwavering gaze held him pinned. "You misunderstand," Ashwood began, but Poirot raised a hand. Nan, let us dispense with the charade. The brooch, the cipher, the bloodstains, the pawn are pieces in the game you devised. You are the knight, are you not? The orchestrator of this sinister tableau." Ashwood's eyes flickered, a storm brewing behind them. He sank into a leather chair, his dressing gown pooling like ink. "You are clever, Poirot," he said, his tone shifting to something raw, less guarded. "Too clever, perhaps. Very well, I shall tell you the truth, but only because you've left me no choice." Poirot sat opposite him, his posture immaculate, his hands folded neatly. "The truth, Lord Ashwood, is a guest long overdue," began "Si vous plate." Ashwood leaned back, his fingers steepled, and began. "The emerald brooch is no ordinary gem. It was stolen from a pharaoh's tomb, a relic of immense value, not just in gold, but in secrets. My family, the Ashwoods, have guarded a legacy tied to the Order of the Night, a society formed centuries ago to protect a chess set, each piece a key to hidden wealth. The brooch was part of that legacy, smuggled to England decades ago. It was stolen again by Dr. Evelyn Hart. Poirot's mustache twitched. Evelyn, the archaeologist. You hired her, did you not? Ashwood nodded, his jaw tight. I did. 5 years ago, I funded her expedition to Cairo, with one condition. She was to retrieve the brooch. She succeeded, but betrayed me, vanishing with it. I spent years tracking her, learning she'd resurfaced in England. This weekend was my gambit to draw her out, to expose her and anyone else tied to the Order's secrets. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And so, you invited us, all a cast of players, each with a secret to hide. The bloodstains, the cipher, the pawn-all, your theatrics to unsettle the guilty. You wished to see who would break. Precisely, Ashwood said, a spark of admiration in his gaze. I revived the Order's symbols, the knight's crest, the chess moves to create chaos. I knew Evelyn was here, hiding among the guests or nearby. The brooch's appearance would force her hand. And the others, Clara, Sir Henry, Beatrice, they all have ties to the Order, whether they admit it or not. Poirot leaned forward, his voice soft but piercing, in the gunshot. The shattered puzzle box. More of your drama. Ashwood hesitated, then shook his head. The gunshot was not mine. Someone else took advantage of my game, perhaps to obscure their own motives. Beatrice, maybe she's desperate to save her family's name. Or Sir Henry, clinging to the Order's faded glory. Poirot rose, pacing slowly, his polished shoes silent on the Persian rug. You play a dangerous game, Lord Ashwood. You invite murder to your table, yet claim innocence when the knife is drawn. But I have not finished. There is one piece missing, Evelyn. Herself. She is alive. N'est-ce pas? And you know where she hides? Ashwood's face paled, but he said nothing. Poirot stopped pacing, his gaze locking onto his host. Her journal, found in the vault, speaks of a cottage in the woods. Entries written in fresh ink, not the faded scrawl of years past. She is close, and you knew it. Why else stage this elaborate trap? Ashwood's shoulders slumped, the fight draining from him. You're right, he admitted. I suspected she was hiding in the old groundskeeper's cottage. I wanted her to reveal herself, to return the brooch. But I swear, Poirot, I meant no harm, only to reclaim what's mine. Poirot's expression remained unreadable. Yours, or the Order's, or perhaps Egypt's. It's the brooch. It belongs to none of you, yet all claim it. And now we shall find Evelyn and end this game. He moved to the desk, retrieving the brooch from its case. You will accompany me, Lord Ashwood. We go to the cottage, and we shall see what truths await. But be warned, Hercule Poirot does not tolerate further deception. Ashwood rose, his movements weary, and followed Poirot into the night. The estate was shrouded in mist, the air sharp with autumn's chill. They navigated the gardens, guided by moonlight, until they reached the woods bordering the lake. The cottage emerged from the fog, its windows dark, its chimney cold. Poirot knocked, his rap precise, but no answer came. He pushed the door open, revealing a small room lit by a single lantern. Papers were scattered across the table, sketches of the brooch, maps of Ashwood Hall, and a letter in Evelyn's hand addressed to Poirot himself. It read, Monsieur Poirot, if you find this, know, I meant to warn you. The Order is not dead. Ashwood lies. The night strikes at midnight. Poirot's eyes narrowed. He turned to Ashwood, who stood frozen in the doorway. Midnight has passed. Lord Ashwood, yet the night has struck through you. explained this letter. Ashwood stammered. I don't know. She's paranoid, Poirot. The order is a shadow, nothing more. Before Poirot could press further, a rustle came from the back of the cottage. He moved swiftly, pulling aside a curtain to reveal a small alcove. There, crouched in the shadows, was Dr. Evelyn Hart, her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. Monsieur Poirot, she whispered. Thank God, you're here. Poirot helped her stand, his manner gentle but firm. Mademoiselle Hart, the game is over. You will tell me everything why you fled, why you warned me, and what you know of this order. Evelyn nodded, trembling. I stole the brooch for Ashwood, but I learned the order's true purpose to control wealth through blackmail, using the chess set as a symbol. They threatened my life when I refused to continue. I hid here, leaving clues to cipher, the blood to draw you in. I knew only you could stop them. Ashwood stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Okay, she's the thief, Poirot. She betrayed me." Poirot raised a hand, silencing him. Enough. The truth, it emerges, but not without cause. Mademoiselle, we will return to the hall. Lord Ashwood, you are under my watch until all is resolved. The trio made their way back through the mist, the brooch heavy in Poirot's pocket. Dawn was hours away, but the library would soon host a final reckoning. Poirot's mind raced, piecing together the threads: Ashwood's confession, Evelyn's fear, the order's shadow. The trap had sprung, but the game's endgame loomed. He would gather the guests, confront each with their secrets, can ensure the brooch's true fate was sealed not in greed, but in justice. As they entered the hall, Poirot's voice was calm, resolute. The night, it has revealed much, but the morning, it will reveal all. Sleep, if you can, Lord Ashwood. For tomorrow, Hercule Poirot plays his final move. Chapter 10. The final check made the dawn broke over Ashwood Hall with a deceptive calm. The mist curling through the Cotswolds like a conspirator's whisper. Hercule Poirot stood at the edge of the estate's sprawling woods, his polished shoes damp from the dew, his gray cells humming with purpose. Evelyn Hart's journal, clutched in his gloved hand, had revealed a final clue, a sketch of a gnarled oak, its roots twisting into the shape of a knight's helm, marking a hidden cottage deep in the forest. The journal's pages filled with frantic notes about the emerald brooch and the order of the night. It guided him here, to the brink of unraveling Lord Ashwood's sinister game. The air was sharp with the scent of pine and secrets, and Poirot's mustache twitched as he sensed the endgame approaching. He adjusted his Homburg hat, his eyes scanning the woods for the telltale oak. The events of the past days, the blood-stained brooch, the cipher, the vanishing archaeologist. The gunshot in the drawing room had woven a tapestry of deception, each thread meticulously placed by Lord Ashwood to expose his guest's weaknesses. But Poirot, with his unyielding devotion to order and method, had turned the game against its master. Ashwood's confession the previous night, caught red-handed at the rigged brooch, had laid bare the scheme, a revival of the order of the night, to reclaim a cursed chess set and settle old scores. Yet Evelyn, the linchpin of the plot, remained elusive, her disappearance the final move on the board. Poirot's task now was to find her alive and checkmate the game once and for all. The oak loomed ahead, its roots sprawling like the claws of some ancient beast. Behind it, half hidden by brambles, stood a cottage, its stone walls weathered but sturdy, its windows dark. Poirot approached with the caution of a chess player eyeing a trap. The door creaked open at his touch, revealing a dim interior lit by a single oil lamp. Papers littered a wooden table, and a faint scent of lavender lingered, a feminine touch in this forgotten place. "Mademoiselle Hart," Poirot called softly, his voice steady but firm. "It is I, Hercule Poirot. You need fear no longer." Rustle came from the shadows, and Evelyn Hart emerged, her auburn hair disheveled, her eyes wide with a mixture of relief and dread. She wore a simple gray coat, stained with mud, and clutched a small satchel as if it were a lifeline. "Monsieur Poirot," she whispered, her voice trembling, "how did you find me? I thought they'd come for me." Poirot raised a hand, his demeanor calm yet commanding. "The journal, mademoiselle. Your sketches were most precise, and your warnings most clever. The cipher, the bloodstains, they were your signals. N'est-ce pas? To alert me to the danger." Evelyn nodded, sinking into a chair, her hands shaking. "I had to warn someone, Ashwood. He hired me years ago to steal the emerald brooch from a tomb in Luxor. I thought it was just a job, a way to fund my research. But the order of the night they're real, Monsieur Poirot, and they wanted the brooch back. When I refused to return it, they threatened my life. I hid it in the puzzle box, hoping to expose Ashwood's game. But then, everything spiraled." Poirot's eyes gleamed, piecing together her tale with the precision of a watchmaker. "And so you fled, leaving clues to ensure the truth would surface. The blood on the colonel's stick, the scarf in the chapel paint, not blood, to unsettle the guilty and draw me in." "Yes," Evelyn admitted, her voice steadier now. "I used theatrical paint from Clara's makeup kit. I knew you'd see through it, that you'd understand it was a warning, not a crime. But Ashwood's men, they've been watching the estate. I saw them in the woods last night, cloaked, carrying a knight's crest. I couldn't risk leaving until I was sure." Poirot nodded, his mind racing. The order of the night, though diminished, was not a myth, and Ashwood's theatrics had summoned its remnants. "You are safe now, mademoiselle," he said, offering a reassuring smile. "But we must return to the hall. Gay is not yet won, and there are pieces still in play. Come, we shall face them together." The journey back to Ashwood Hall was silent, the woods a labyrinth of shadows. Evelyn clutched her satchel, her fear tempered by Poirot's resolute presence. As they emerged onto the estate's manicured lawns, the hall loomed like a chessboard castle, its windows glinting in the morning light. Poirot's mind churned. Ashwood's confession had named him the orchestrator, that the cloaked figures suggested accomplices, perhaps loyalists to the order. The brooch, now in Poirot's possession, was the key, its return to Egypt the only way to end the curse's grip on this tangled affair. Inside the hall, the guests gathered in the drawing room, their faces a gallery of unease. Lord Ashwood sat in a high-backed chair, his aristocratic poise frayed by Poirot's trap. Lady Beatrice Langston, her blonde curls immaculate despite her sleepless night, twisted her handkerchief free of gunpowder now, but no less telling. Sir Henry Wells, the colonel, stood rigidly by the fireplace, his ring glinting with a knight's crest. Clara Beaumont, the actress, perched on a sofa, her eyes darting between the guests as if expecting a curtain to fall. The servants hovered at the edges, their deference masking curiosity. Poirot stepped forward, Evelyn at his side, and the room fell silent. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, his voice clear and measured. "The game of Ashwood Hall is at its end. Mademoiselle Hart, whom you believed lost, stands before you, her courage the key to unraveling this sinister plot. Permit me to reveal the truth, step by step, as only Hercule Poirot can." He paced the room, his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes sharp. "It begins with the emerald brooch, stolen from a pharaoh's tomb by Mademoiselle Hart at the behest of Lord Ashwood. This gem, tied to a cursed chess set owned by the Order of the Night, was to be the centerpiece of a weekend designed to expose secrets. Lord Ashwood, our host, revived the Order's name, not for honor, but for blackmail. He invited you each with a connection to the brooch or the chess set to play his game, using fear to draw out your truths. Ashwood shifted, his jaw tight. "You've no proof, Poirot," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Poirot raised a finger. "Au contraire, milord. The puzzle box, the cipher, the bloodstains, or your theatrics, designed to unsettle. The cipher, the knight's gambit, pointed to your crest, your family's legacy. The blood, mere paint, was a ruse to frighten Mademoiselle Hart into revealing the brooch's hiding place. But you underestimated me." He turned to Beatrice, whose face paled. "Lady Langston, your family's rivalry with the Ashwoods over the chess set drove you to desperation. Your handkerchief, stained with gunpowder, betrayed your attempt to destroy the portrait, a symbol of Ashwood's power. You sought to reclaim the set to save your estate from ruin." Beatrice's lips parted, but no words came. Poirot continued, facing Sir Henry. "Colonel Wells, your ring marks you as a member of the order, though you claimed it dissolved. Your nervousness betrayed your knowledge of Ashwood's plans, and your silence protected him until now." Sir Henry's shoulders sagged, his military bearing crumbling. Poirot's gaze softened as he addressed Clara. "Mademoiselle Beaumont, you were no mere pawn. Hired by an anonymous patron Ashwood himself, you observed Mademoiselle Hart, unaware of the full game. Your fear was real, but your courage in confiding to me turned the tide." Clara's eyes glistened, and she nodded. Poirot produced the emerald brooch, its green fire catching the light. "Gem, the heart of the game, must return to its rightful place. I have contacted the authorities, and it will be restored to Egypt, breaking the curse that has haunted you all." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "But there is one final piece. The cloaked figures in the woods, loyal to the order, sought to protect their secrets. They are no more, for I alerted the local constabulary last night, and they have been apprehended. The order of the night is finished." Ashwood rose, his face ashen. "You've ruined me, Poirot." "No, my lord," Poirot replied, his tone icy. "You ruined yourself. Your greed and deception set this board, but my gray cells have delivered checkmate." Evelyn stepped forward, her voice steady. "I'll testify, Monsieur Poirot. Threats, the order's demands, it's all in my journal. Let it end here." Poirot nodded, satisfied. The authorities arrived soon after, their boots echoing in the hall's marble corridors. The brooch was handed over, destined for a museum in Cairo. Ashwood was escorted away, his title no shield against justice. Beatrice, chastened, agreed to settle her family's debts honorably. Sir Henry surrendered his ring, vowing to leave the order's shadow behind. Clara, freed from her patron's grip, planned to return to the stage, her spirit unbroken. As the guests dispersed, Poirot stood on the terrace, the autumn breeze ruffling his coat. The chessboard of Ashwood Hall was cleared, its pieces scattered by truth. He thought of Evelyn, now safe, her journal a testament to her resilience. The game had been sinister, but Poirot's method, his relentless pursuit of order, had prevailed. He turned to Captain Hastings, who had joined him for the denouement, summoned by a telegram. "Mon ami," Poirot said, a twinkle in his eye. "The human heart, it plays such dangerous games. But with the little gray cells, we bring light to the darkest moves." Hastings chuckled. "You've done it again, Poirot. Shall we return?" "To London," Poirot replied, adjusting his tie. "But first, a tisane. Even the greatest detective requires refreshment." As they walked to the waiting car, Ashwood Hall receded into the mist, its secrets laid bare, its game concluded. Poirot's mind, ever restless, turned to the next puzzle, but for now, the board was at peace. Chapter 11. The quiet reflection in the waning light of a November evening in 1926. Hercule Poirot sat ensconced in his meticulously ordered flat at Whitehaven Mansions, London. The air carried the delicate fragrance of a freshly brewed tisane, its steam curling upward from a porcelain cup that rested on a saucer aligned with mathematical precision. The room was a testament to Poirot's love of symmetry. The mahogany desk gleamed under the soft glow of a brass lamp, its surface unmarred, save for a neat stack of correspondence. The bookshelves stood in perfect rows, their volumes arranged by height and subject. And the fireplace cast a warm, controlled light, its flames dancing without a hint of chaos. Beyond the windows, London pulsed with life. Carriage wheels clattered on cobblestones. Vendors called out their wares, and the distant toll of a church bell marked the hour. But within these walls, Poirot's world was a sanctuary of order, a bulwark against the disorderly passions of humanity. He sipped his tisane, savoring the herbal notes, and allowed his thoughts to drift to the Ashwood affair, that intricate tapestry of deception woven in the Cotswolds' autumnal mists. The case had been a masterpiece of misdirection, a game orchestrated by Lord Reginald Ashwood to ensnare his guests in a web of secrets and fear. The emerald brooch, stolen from an Egyptian tomb, had been the centerpiece, a cursed relic that sparked greed, betrayal, and terror. Poirot's little gray cells had unraveled it all. Ashwood's blackmail scheme, Lady Beatrice Langston's desperate bid to save her family's crumbling estate, Sir Henry Wells' ties to the shadowy Order of the Night, and Clara Beaumont's coerced role as a pawn in a larger plot. Evelyn Hart, the archaeologist, had been the key. Her flight from danger and her cryptic warnings guiding Poirot to the truth. Catus, the brooch, was now on its way back to Egypt, the order dismantled, and the guests freed from their entanglements, chastened, but alive. Poirot set his cup down, adjusting it a fraction to align perfectly with the saucer's edge, and leaned back in his armchair. His eyes, sharp as a falcon's, settled on a small parcel that had arrived that morning, wrapped in plain brown paper and tied with a simple string. The Oxford postmark and the elegant, scholarly handwriting identified it as Evelyn Hart's. With deliberate care, he untied the string, the knot yielding smoothly under his deft fingers. Inside was a folded letter and a small, framed sketch, the knight's crest from Ashwood Hall, its bold lines etched in black ink, a symbol of the game he had checkmated. He unfolded the letter, the paper crisp and faintly scented with lavender, and read, "My dear Monsieur Poirot, I write from Oxford, where I have found refuge in the quiet halls of academia. Far from the shadows of Ashwood Hall, the university has welcomed me back, and I spend my days among manuscripts and students, piecing together the past without fear of hidden vaults or cloaked figures. Your intervention saved me, not only from danger, but from a life haunted by my own mistakes. The enclosed sketch is a humble tokené reminder of the night's gambit we outwitted together. I trust it will find a place among your treasures. It shall remain a footnote in your extraordinary career, with eternal gratitude." Evelyn Hart, a faint smile, curved Poirot's lips, softening the precise lines of his mustache. He rose, carrying the sketch to a drawer in his desk, where he kept mementos of his cases, a silver cigarette case from a diplomat's murder, a torn ticket stub from a deadly opera, a vial of perfume linked to a poisoning in Nice. The knight's crest joined them, its frame catching the lamplight as he closed the drawer with a soft click. Returning to his chair, he held Evelyn's letter. His mind lingering on the Ashwood affair. The case had been more than a puzzle. It was a study in human frailty. Lord Ashwood, with his aristocratic hauteur, had crafted a weekend of terror to reclaim a legacy he believed his birthright. His puzzle box, blood-stained brooch, cryptic notes were theatrics designed to unsettle, to expose secrets he could exploit. Lady Beatrice, her elegance, a veneer over desperation, had been driven by her family's fading glory, willing to abet theft to preserve it. Sir Henry, the gruff colonel, had clung to the Order of the Knight, a relic of medieval honor that masked his own insecurities. Clara, the actress, had played her part with the poise of a performer, yet her fear betrayed her role as a pawn, and Evelyn, the scholar, had been ensnared by her own curiosity, stealing the brooch only to flee when its curse turned real. Poirot's thoughts turned to the nature of greed, cage, that perennial motive cloaked in countless guises. At Ashwood, it had masqueraded as heritage, as survival, as loyalty. He had seen it before, in the glittering salons of Paris, the fog-shrouded streets of London, the quiet villages of the English countryside. Each case was a variation on a theme, yet each demanded his full attention, his meticulous method to strip away the lies and reveal the truth. The Ashwood affair had been a triumph, not merely of intellect, but of principle. The brooch returned, justice served, and order restored. The fire popped, sending a spark skittering up the chimney, and Poirot's gaze shifted to the window. London's lights twinkled like stars against the deepening dusk, a city alive with secrets yet to be uncovered. He thought of Evelyn, now safe in Oxford, her days filled with lectures and dusty tomes. Clara had written him weeks ago, her note brief but buoyant, announcing her return to the stage in a West End production, her confidence reborn. Sir Henry had retreated to his cottage in Kent. Hay's ring, no longer a badge of secrets, but a relic of a past he could finally leave behind. And Beatrice, her pride intact despite her losses, had sold part of her estate to settle her debts. Her future uncertain, but her spirit unbowed. A soft knock at the door interrupted his reverie. "Keynes," Poirot called, his voice clear and authoritative, yet warmed by the comfort of his surroundings. George, his impeccable valet, entered, carrying a silver tray with a single envelope. "A letter, sir," George said, his tone as polished as the tray he bore, "delivered by hand from a young lady who declined to give her name. She wore a veiled hat, sir, and was most insistent on discretion." Poirot's eyebrows rose, his curiosity piqued. "A man, George," he said, taking the envelope with a nod. As the valet withdrew, Poirot examined the letter. The cream paper was of fine quality, its edges crisp, and a faint trace of lavender perfume clung to it, not unlike Evelyn's, yet distinct, sharper. He slid it open with a letter opener, its blade glinting in the firelight, and read the brief message inside. "Monsieur Poirot, your reputation as a solver of mysteries is unmatched, and I find myself in need of your singular talents. A matter of a missing necklace, seemingly trivial, yet with consequences most grave, requires your attention. I will call tomorrow at 3, if you will permit. Discretion, I assure you, is paramount. Yours, a friend." Poirot's lips twitched into a smile, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Missing necklace, how deceptively simple it sounded, yet he knew better. No case was ever truly trivial. The smallest detail could unravel a tapestry of intrigue. Is this friend a victim, a conspirator, or something more elusive? He placed the note on his desk, aligning it precisely with the edge, and leaned back, his mind already turning over possibilities. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, yet controlled, suggesting a woman of refinement and, perhaps, calculation. Tomorrow, he would meet her, and the game would begin anew. He rose and crossed to the window, gazing out at London's restless sprawl. The city was a stage, its players caught in dramas of ambition, love, and betrayal. Yet here, in his haven of order, Poirot felt a quiet contentment. The Ashwood affair had been a victory, not just of logic, but of morality. He had restored balance, returned a stolen relic to its origins, and freed a woman from fear. It was enough, for now, to savor that triumph. Returning to his chair, he took up Evelyn's letter again, rereading her words of gratitude. Her escape from Ashwood's game had been a triumph of resilience, and her sketch was a fitting memento. He thought of the other guests, their lives altered by the weekend's revelations. Clara's return to the stage was a testament to her strength, her ability to transform fear into art. Sir Henry's retreat to Kent was a quieter resolution, a man stepping away from the shadows of his past. And Beatrice, for all her flaws, had faced her debts with a courage that Poirot respected, if not admired. The clock on the mantel struck 7, its chime soft but resonant, and Poirot adjusted his tisane cup one final degree, ensuring its perfect alignment. The world outside could wait a little longer. For tonight, he was content to reflect on his victory, to let his gray cells rest before the next challenge stirred them into motion. He picked up a book from the side table treatise on criminology, its pages marked with his precise annotations, settled in to read. The fire's glow, casting long shadows across the room. As he read, his thoughts drifted to the broader canvas of his career. The Ashwood affair was but one case among many, yet each left its mark, a thread in the tapestry of his life. He recalled a case in Brussels years ago, where a stolen painting had led to a diplomat's disgrace. Another in Cornwall, where a fisherman's tale had unraveled a smuggling ring, and one in Paris, where a single rose petal had pointed to a killer. Each case was a puzzle, each solution a restoration of order. And yet, Poirot knew the human heart would always weave new mysteries, new challenges for his intellect. The fire burned low, its embers glowing softly, and Poirot closed his book, setting it aside with care. He rose once more, drawn to the window, where the city's lights seemed to pulse with secrets. Tomorrow's visitor, with her missing necklace and veiled intentions, would bring a new puzzle. He imagined her, a woman of poise, perhaps her lavender-scented letter, a clue to her character. Was she a society lady, caught in a scandal, a widow, guarding a legacy? Or something more dangerous, a player in a game yet to be revealed? Fingers brushed the curtain, and he smiled, the thrill of the unknown stirring within him. Returning to his desk, he took up a pen and a sheet of paper, jotting down a few notes about the Ashwood case for his private records. He wrote of the Knight's Crest, its medieval origins tying the guests to a shared history of greed. He noted Evelyn's courage, her decision to warn him despite her fear. And he recorded Ashwood's downfall, a man undone by his own hubris. The act of writing was soothing, a way to crystallize the case in his mind, to preserve its lessons for the future. As he finished, he glanced at the sketch again, its lines bold against the cream paper. It was a fitting symbol, he thought, of the game he had won. The knight, in chess, was a piece of cunning, moving in unexpected ways, yet Poirot had anticipated its every step. He closed the drawer, the sketch safe among his treasures, and returned to his chair, the tisane, now cool but still fragrant. The evening stretched before him, quiet and unhurried. He thought of the cases that had come before, and those yet to come. Each was a challenge, a chance to impose order on chaos, to shine a light into the shadows of the human soul. The Ashwood affair had been a triumph, but it was not the end. There would always be another mystery, another puzzle to solve. And Hercule Poirot, with his gray cells and his unyielding sense of justice, would be ready. He leaned back, closing his eyes, and let the warmth of the fire envelop him. The world outside could spin its webs of intrigue, but here, in this moment, all was as it should be. The teacup was aligned, the fire was low, and the Knight's Crest was safely stored. For now, order prevailed, and Poirot was at peace. The clock chimed 8, its notes fading into the stillness, and Poirot opened his eyes, his mind clear and sharp. Tomorrow, at 3, he would meet his mysterious visitor, and the next chapter of his story would begin. But tonight, he would rest, content in the knowledge that his method, his logic, and his little gray cells had once again triumphed over the sinister games of men.